What is going on, everybody? It is episode 511 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. Today, the office Christmas party is going on downstairs, and we are holed up in the castle tower, not allowed to join the rest of them, but we have a special guest to keep us company. Introduce yourself, please.
Hey. I am Eric July. Some know me as Young Ripper 5'9", and I do a little bit of everything. Music, comics, whatever I feel like waking up doing that day is kind of how it works these days.
Running a business?
Yeah, a little something, just a couple $1 million here and there with the business. But yeah, no, running Rippaverse obviously is where most of my time goes these days. I'm blessed to be in this position, man. I appreciate y'all having me out here.
And that was actually what we were talking about beforehand, because what we said was like before, when the Rippaverse launched, you were so busy with the early stages of production that you just didn't have time to travel and do anything. Now you actually get to go out and promote.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because for about a year and a half, I wasn't able to do things like this. I had to turn a whole lot of these down because I was in the warehouse working. But, you know, with us being fully staffed and everybody's kind of in their positions now, I'm finally able to do this type of stuff, which is what I should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, you were on the Culture War earlier, had a great discussion. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into today. We are going to talk with Eric about the construction of the Rippaverse, how it's grown, how it's evolved, everything in that process. We're going to talk about indie comics. I do want to get into CANCELPIGS, the hashtag that has been trending on Twitter for some time now, which
They're not trying to cancel pigs.
No, no, of course not. They're leaving the pigs alone. But we will talk about it because I was actually thinking about talking about it earlier in the week. It was a little bit outside the purview of where we normally go with some of these discussions. But with Eric here, I think that's a perfect time to have it.
Someone said Mary and Brett at the kids' table. That's us at the holiday gathering.
We're literally up here, yeah.
We also have a $20 from Brandon M. just because we finally got Eric on the show. Hill, the Rippaverse, and PCC combining to flip culture on its head. Thank you both for all you do.
Shout out.
Thank you.
Thank you. But we got a bunch of stuff to get into today, guys. But before we get started, would you hit the like button on this video? Would you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already? We are about to pass 85,000 subscribers. We're getting close to that 100,000 subscriber mark. So please go ahead, do that, and then share these videos with your friends. More people come in, more people watch. They share it with their friends. That's how these things grow. Word of mouth. That's the best way to do these things. Also remember, as you just saw, all Super Chats $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion. We will read it right then and there, and then we will get back on topic, except, and I will make the point today, when we are interviewing Eric, we're gonna let him talk.
We're gonna ignore you.
We're gonna ignore your ass for at least and then we'll get back to that as soon as that segment is done. We will then read those 20s. Otherwise, up until that point, all Super Chats $20 and over. Interrupt the discussion. Read it right then and there. We got a bunch of stuff to get into. We are going to be talking with Eric, CANCELPIGS. Also, Jonathan Majors is waiting on his. I actually think we should probably hit refresh before we start that topic because he is waiting to figure out whether he's actually going to be. I don't think this dude's going to jail. I don't think he's going to jail. I can't believe this went to trial. Anyways, but this crazy video came out the other day where he's basically running away from his crazy girlfriend. Whatever you think of her.
I just see Megan Good stands by Marvel star boyfriend as jury deliberates. Okay, so that's all we have so far.
So we'll get into it. We'll talk about the closing arguments. We'll talk about the video, and we'll talk about that. Also, Kanye West had an insane meltdown just this morning. It looks like, at least the video was posted this morning.
He's in Vegas, and there's just this whole room listening to him go on a rant about Trump and Hitler and Adidas.
It's Vegas, you know, shit happens. It's fine, you know. So we got all that to get into. So, Mary, if you're ready, we will just get started. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Eric, you ready?
I'm good.
Let's do this. All right, first things first, let's actually shout out what Tim is doing right now, right?
We're shilling.
Guys, we're shilling.
We're not shilling the merch today. We're shilling our boss's song, Together Again.
Which Mary, okay, so this song came out a while ago, and Mary was like coming up here and telling me how much
No, it didn't. I got Carter to send me the bootleg so that I could listen to it because I overheard it from his studio and thought, like, okay, this actually kind of slaps.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to it in my car using Slack.
I like the idea of you having it on like a tape. On like a cassette tape.
We'll go with that, yeah. But now it's officially out, their cover of Together Again by Smokey Mike and the God King. Yeah. And it looks like it's competing with BTS's No More Dream, That's just broken English.
How do you compete with
No More Dream?
K-pop anyways? K-pop is like, that's like trying to compete with manga these days, right?
This is on iTunes, right? Or is this some other chart?
It's on iTunes.
Okay, so they hit #1. I don't know if they're still there.
You got music? Got new music coming out?
Oh man, we get asked that a lot backwards when we returning. But yes, we're sitting on a lot. We just finished up 2 music videos as well that are getting edited up, and yeah, we're coming out with a bang.
How about
we'll be
touring?
returning. Oh,
Is that
I would
the
love
question?
to get no, that's a good one because seriously, we do want to get back on the road. I mean, we had great experiences when we were at our heyday backwards, going on the road touring. Being able to meet the fans, and definitely because between that as well as the Rippaverse is very fan oriented, that's something that we kind of got to do. So,
All right.
We got 2 $20 ones here. One from Brandon M says, we got that one. We got Cody Bedreau says, Rippaverse. This means Eric will be in the Timcast tonight. Everybody support the Rippaverse.
Shout out, appreciate.
Wait, is that true?
Can you confirm or deny?
I mean, we talked about it this morning about me doing it. I mean, I guess we kind of confirmed it, like, hey, I should do it, but I'm just here.
3 in 1.
That's a lot of content in one day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing everybody's show.
Well, I guess you'll have to see tonight.
Well, to the victory go the spoils, right? You got to put in the work, right? Three appearances in one day is a lot.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I don't know if anybody here remembers, but Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is about to come out, and the critics don't seem all that fond of this. Have you paid close attention or any attention to this?
Yes, a little bit of it. This has been an intriguing story. This is kind of Zack Snyder's first big thing post Snyderverse stuff, and the reason why I got more intrigued by it was because he had this is what she's saying, or they, or whatever you want to call Max Visaggio.
Yes.
Was hand-selected by Zack Snyder to do the prequel comic for Rebel Moon. Weird, I mean, I almost said casting, but that actually probably is accurate.
A lot of people would say that.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
A lot of the way people are selected for jobs these days are, in effect, casting.
Yeah, I would say that's about accurate, but yeah, way to zap your enthusiasm there by going with, of all people, Mags, to do your prequel comic. So yeah, critics not liking it is very surprising, but it'll even out. We'll see how good or how bad it is.
I guess I'm out of the loop, but who is that person?
So this interesting cat we talk about, and we probably will talk about on the show, everything wrong with comics, and this person is, I believe, they're trans. And is everything wrong with comics, but not because they're trans, because they are very ideological. I don't know if you remember that deal that was going around where there was a writer that wanted to turn Superboy, Connor Kent, into trans. That was her. That was Max Visaggio. That was.
There is a correlation between identifying as trans and having a certain ideology.
Yeah. I mean,
we can just put that right out.
If we're being fair, yeah.
And a big part of the problem with a lot of this now is one of the things you touched on earlier is that when people do this, they don't work within the constraints of the character,
Not at all.
which should be something that should be paramount and extremely important. Is that you take just earlier this year, David Zaslav talked about they were just now creating character Bibles for like the next round of movies.
That is insane.
Did this not exist before? There should have been a character Bible that goes all the way back to the beginning of these comics, right?
The reason, that in itself is an admission that it's a free-for-all and people are kind of just doing whatever stories it is that they want, especially in the comic books. But no, you bring a person like that on and there's an expectation that there's going to be some sort of, you're going to be beat over the head with some sort of social issues. Mags has no problem going on tangents about trans this and trans that. Actually bragged not too long ago, may have been like 5 days ago, was bragging about some, didn't say who it was.
Didn't list the character.
Didn't list the character, but hey, they got an opportunity for some big company to trans another character, and they're bragging about it. So you know what you get when you get those types of people.
At least it's not a child. We're not transing children.
And the amount of like, and the thing is though, is Snyder isn't like, people act like this is different because he's got the strong female lead for this movie. The name of the movie is literally called A Child of Fire. Like that's not new for him. Like this is perfectly in line with him. You guys were talking about Watchmen earlier, which is a lot of people believe to be his best work, right? And I found this movie, look, I'm just over the CGI these days. Like, I keep going back to this movie called The Creator that came out this year, which, whatever you think of the story, Gareth Edwards did so much with just $80 million, and it's because he didn't use massive green screen or blue screen sets. So you got a lot of actual lived environments, which the CGI isn't placed on top of, which you can connect with better. But I understand that when you're doing Galaxy-style comics or Galaxy-style stories, you're going to be majority CGI. But just because of the sheer brunt of the material that we get like that now, I've just checked out.
Well,
I've just checked
most
out.
of these negative critic reviews are just saying they're trying to sandwich together as many sci-fi tropes and aesthetics as possible, and that it's confusing. I know we have some viewers who live in Britbong, and it's out on Netflix in the UK, or if you have a VPN, let us know what you thought if you saw it already.
It is also fair to point out that, look, whenever the critics agree with you, everyone uses it as an own. But whenever the critics disagree with you, then suddenly it doesn't matter. That comes up a lot.
Or the opposite, like, oh, I'm gonna really, really love this because the critics hate it.
Yeah,
is often what we're seeing. Look, this is interesting. Look, I'm not that intrigued about it. I know people are really into that sort of definitely space exploration and all of that stuff. Will we say that this is kind of trying to exist in the vein of a Star Wars? Will we say that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying that this is basically his answer to Star Wars.
Okay.
And he could have seen, and Netflix could see this as a viable market share because of how much hate The Last Jedi got. Like, so as soon as what is the AI on Twitter now? What's it called? Grok. Okay. The first thing I did, because it gave me a wrong answer when I asked it a question. Remember, I asked it a question the other day and it gave me a wrong answer. But I said, what is the most polarizing Star Wars film? And it immediately says The Last Jedi. You can't deny the cultural impact that the backlash on that film had, because then everyone went into The Rise of Skywalker with apathy. There was no actual desire to see it. They kind of won it back a little bit early Mandalorian, but then they lost it after they fired Gina Carano. So there is this hole that needs to be filled for people who love stories about space exploration. Yes, I guess some people don't really hate Star Trek right now. There's Star Trek properties that people are enjoying, but that's more space exploration as opposed to space opera, which is different, right?
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
So, like, there's a market to be filled here, but I just don't know if putting this on Netflix when a movie like this probably should go to the theater anyways.
Well, it's in some theaters.
But that's the problem. Like, we went and saw Glass Onion, the Rian Johnson movie Glass Onion in the theater, and I actually enjoyed that experience. And they had a movie called Extraction 2, which was like the last great Netflix movie that they made because the action is really, really good. But that deserved to be seen in a theater, not necessarily just going and watching it at home on a smaller television.
Yeah, I think it was, which it doesn't look like it's going to work, but I think they really wanted Rebel Moon to be this kind of big next new property, right? Yeah. Like it was going to be in the vein of a Star Wars, having its own sort of universe. This is why they're doing this whole prequel comic thing. This is why they're guaranteeing basically this sort of part 2. I just don't know if the enthusiasm is there to sort of pull that off. It doesn't seem to be the case, but yeah, that was risky. Let's just say that, going right into Netflix, going right into streaming, not having it be in stores, especially when it comes to getting a return. This is how these things work, right? They want to justify how much money they're going to spend in the future, and how many people are going to get Netflix to watch Rebel Moon. Yeah. Right? Like I don't think that's happening, right?
No.
So with that being said, you probably were better off just putting it in theaters and seeing what happens.
And it seems to me that when they try to build these things at the corporate level, it feels inorganic. So whenever they try to launch the next big property, people can smell the corporatization a mile away, and it just doesn't catch. The reason why Wednesday was such a success is because nobody really expected it to do as well as it did. All the ones that have found success in the last year, it's unexpected, right? It's not like some big property that they said, this is the next big thing, it's going to do big numbers, and then it actually lives up.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're starting from, hey, everything's big budget, and they're not like, to your point, I guess organic is a good way to put that, because generally speaking, these things start off in, let's say, some comic or something like that. It gets and that's like a trial run, and then they end up justifying turning into animation or live action. You're not really getting it with this. This is like we're starting big box right out the gate, and we're spending. I don't know what the budget is on this thing.
It's high. I think it's over $200 million.
Okay, that's insane. They're not making that back. They're not getting anything close to that in like again, people signing up for Netflix to get that. So if they spent that much money, this is going to be an L. But I get it. If you're
166 million.
That's still a lot. That's still a crazy amount, especially for something that's not going to be in theaters. And look, Netflix, I know they got on the other side of it. There was a time there where like nobody was making money in streaming, including Netflix. And I think Netflix became the one that ended up being profitable.
It's the only one that's profitable.
Yeah, only one that's profitable right now. But is it going to be, again, I mean, you got to look at it kind of in context. Like, are people signing up for Netflix to watch Rebel Moon, and how are you going to recoup those fees? Because if they spent that much, you got to add X amount for marketing and everything else. I doubt it, right? So they are moving. They're starting backwards, I guess.
I'm double checking on somebody's saying Rebel Moon budget was 80. I want to double check because I don't want to be the fake news. Okay. But here on Wikipedia it says budget 166 million shared with the second part. So probably,
So
two between
films.
one
Gotcha.
and two.
Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense.
We are not fake news here, guys. We're not fake news here. But even when the budgets are that high, right? Like, it's very, very hard because we always talk about when the strike was going on, like all this money comes from one pot. Like, and we're going to actually talk about this in a little bit because there's a story that says like the 90% of all the stuff on Netflix gets almost no views whatsoever. So these people want to make royalties while not actually driving any viewership.
Talk about that all the time, yes.
Yeah, dude.
And people keep their Netflix subscription for the illusion of choice.
Yes.
Yeah. They don't watch any of it.
Or they watch the comedy specials or the same thing. Or I literally keep Netflix for like... Actually, no, I don't even really keep it for that anymore because I love old school procedurals, right? And then some of them are on all of these networks. So NCIS, which is something I fall asleep to, I can get all however many seasons, but I don't even need that now because it's on Paramount Plus, which has all of these licensed CBS shows because it's a subsidiary, right? So like they're trying to build this out, but there's just no way that you're going to make it back because their subscriber growth is slowing year to year. Yeah. You've reached a large market cap because of what happened with COVID. Everybody was stuck at home, so everybody signs up for their streaming services. But now they're bleeding viewers in a lot of cases. Disney, a lot of people believe that what's going to happen is like the reason Disney bought Hulu is because they want to fold the numbers in to kind of be able to put off having to tell people that they've actually hit their subscriber mark. Right? Yeah. So they have to, and we all know that Hollywood loves funny accounting.
Oh, that's funny money. It's all day long, moving numbers and paying yourself, and then they do all that good stuff. Yeah.
And that leads into this one, which is this topic, which is there was an article that came out from Cosmic Book News. It says Warner Brothers Discovery high chance of bankruptcy, says wealth optimization service. I don't know what a wealth optimization service is, but it's interesting. So it says a personalized optimization service states that Warner Brothers Discovery has a high chance of going bankrupt. It's called
58%.
58%. And
but in what period of time are they talking about?
Yeah, so it says most of Warner Brothers' fundamental indicators such as probability of bankruptcy are part of a valuation analysis module that helps investors search for stocks that are currently trading higher or lower than their actual value.
Disney gets a less than 1% chance of bankruptcy despite the fact that they're losing more money than Warner Brothers.
Do you actually think there's a chance Disney could ever go bankrupt?
Well, I mean, hell, anything can happen. But the thing that Disney has going for it that Warner necessarily doesn't, or Discovery, is that the other different entities that they can make money off of. Like, if Disney's didn't have those damn parks, they would have been under a long time ago.
They're considered a park company first. Yeah. And basically the entertainment, the reason that Bob Iger wanted to buy so much IP is because he can fill the parks with the IP rather than creating it.
That's where they're making their money. They're to your point, they're losing billions, literally billions every quarter. But yeah, Warner's in debt. That's not been any sort of secret, definitely with this merger. There was a reason why AT&T said we want out. Yeah. Right? They said they saw the writing on the wall. They got into the entertainment game and they said, this ain't for us. Yeah. We getting out. Y'all can have this. So it's will they go bankrupt? I mean, it's very well possible. It's hard to imagine considering some of the properties it is that they have, but I'd argue that they're mismanaged. We're all going to point to the DCs, like, DC Comics being part of that. To be fair, they've never really made any money, and there's a reason why they've switched hands as many times as they have, though they've been under Warner or in some capacity for a very long time. But publications ain't making money for them like that anyway. They're making money off of merch and other deals like that, but it looks like that's not good enough because they did inherit a whole lot of debt. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But of the two, Disney and Warner, yes, Warner is more likely to go under as opposed to Disney.
What were their profitable movies this year other than Barbie?
For Warner Brothers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Other than Barbie.
There was I thought
Obviously
Warner
not
had
The Flash,
you're
obviously not Blue Beetle.
You're putting me on the.
No, they lost money on Flash.
Massively.
Flash lost X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars. Blue Beetle, and we know they didn't make any money off of that. They're not going to make any money off of Aquaman. So all the DC,
Black Adam also.
Oh, that lost money.
that
Oppenheimer
lost
was
money.
Warner Brothers. Made $900 million, made almost $1 billion.
So they made some money
So-
off
Oh
of
wait,
that.
does that mean Barbie was?
No.
I thought Oppenheimer was Universal,
No,
and that was the
Oppenheimer
whole,
was
like-
Universal. That's
That was the whole drama.
Because Christopher Nolan used to work for Warner Brothers, and then he switched to Universal to make
Right.
Oppenheimer. Yeah, they had Five Nights at Freddy's. Was that
That
Warner
made a
Brothers?
little money.
Wasn't that A24?
No, it wasn't A24. It was Blumhouse.
Oh, it was Blumhouse. Yes. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what other movies that they had that other than Barbie that would have made money this year, but that would have made the majority of their profits. Creed 3. I just put Warner Brothers movies 2023. Somebody's gonna have to let me know what the profitable movies were for them. When we're like going through it and we're covering them, I remember all of them. But now
And
I'm not,
Mario was Universal.
Yes. Yeah,
So-
Mario made a huge amount of money for them this past year. So
Well, I guess
actually,
they need
no,
to lean into the pink girly stuff.
we just saw that they said that Universal was the most profitable studio of the year this year because of
Barbie.
Oppenheimer. No, because of Oppenheimer and because of Mario.
Yeah.
Mario, gotcha.
Yeah. So right. So yeah, that's big for Universal. I said like on an episode this year, I said like when we're watching movies, Universal is the only like tag logo that doesn't fill me with dread now because most of their stuff just tends to remain on the fun. Oppenheimer isn't fun, but they're
And
either
Disney
good or
like
fun.
only made money on Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes.
That's literally the only one.
I mean,
this
all
year.
of the. If we'd been talking about this before, I'd have pulled up. All
I
the
mean,
data
Disney
before.
had to lost. I mean, they lost
It
money
was
on
a
everything.
billion.
Lost them tons. Of money.
Wish they lost money. Every Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously Marvel's that set, they might lose almost $500 million on that damn film.
Yeah.
Like that's hard to conceptualize. That's a big number.
And the Flash would have cost DC as much too because of all the time it spent in post production.
Well, yeah, that's how they're losing all the money. I mean, when you're spending $200 to $300 million plus marketing, then yeah, you're set to have to make like $800 million to break even. That's your break even point.
There was I remember we did the topic where I said like all of the most profitable movies of the year this year cost $100 million. They stopped at $100 million on the budget, right? So Oppenheimer only cost $100 million, Barbie only cost $100 million, and when you make it a movie for $100 million and you spend what $75 million on marketing, if you take the average that they do or the 1.25, right? So you have just less that has to come back to you. And then another one for a lot of these movies that a lot of us never take into account is rentals afterwards, which is still a thing. People like on-demand sales are still a thing for those movies that are mid-budget. That's where they make their money back, just like they used to in home video rentals or like on demand. Right. So you can still make your money back on that. But by that time, the news cycle's passed and nobody's talking about it anymore. So when they made Murder on the Orient Express, and then they made Death on the Nile. So they made almost no money in the theaters, but did fine on pay VOD. So you can justify making a sequel if the budget is low. It makes a little bit of it back on pay VOD. You can justify making another one. A lot of times because it keeps them with relationships with these directors and these actors. So they get to keep working with Kenneth Branagh, and that allows them to stay involved with that person.
Phil just sent us $20 and said, want me to bring you up some Christmas cupcakes.
I'm on a diet, bro. I'm on a diet.
I already
right
had
now.
two, so I'm good. What about you, Eric?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
thank
2
you,
weeks
Phil.
without soda today, so I'm doing good.
I'm
here.
good.
I'm good. All right, and speaking of what you said about Aquaman, it is funny because Jason Momoa says that he doesn't think he'll get to return as Aquaman. He says if the audience doesn't love it, then if the audience loves it, there's a possibility. But right now, I'm like, it's not looking too good. Well, yeah, because there's no interest in your.
Well, there's no interest there. Look, you talk about just incompetence. I mean, imagine doing this reboot thing and then still putting out Flash, Blue Beetle, and that, where you've essentially just, I mean, you took whatever you want, name your blunt object, right to the knees of anything that was being produced within that window because you've essentially told the audience that it doesn't matter. I don't understand it.
Crisis party.
Thank you.
Super chats trigger the crisis party.
Whatever works. Whatever works.
Yeah, like for these studios right now, for Aquaman especially, it's also because we all know that they're sitting on the edge of what James Gunn is supposed to start creating, and who actually wants to join something if they know that it's about.
It doesn't matter. That's why. Look, it hurt all of the properties that they came out with. None of it matters because of the fact that, hey, we're doing this big reboot, which, you know, maybe more people are excited about that than I am, and I ever have been. But yeah, it's such a stupid move. It's a really dumb move to sit up there and say, hey, none of these movies matter, but we want you to come see them. It's
also funny because one of my biggest problems with DC movies at least, was that they never seemed to be able to stick to an idea and follow it through. They would change course midway through. They'd announce things and then cancel things. They'd constantly be giving updates and then backtrack on those things. So you never felt like there was like firm footing. Marvel's falling into this now a lot because projects get canceled or they get the length shortened or things like that. But DC always seemed wishy-washy, and then they hire James Gunn, who can't stay off Twitter and is giving constant updates that then change. They needed to hire someone who's like, look, this is when we're going to start filming, and then only do promotional material up until you get to the filming process, and just do promotion and don't do all of these half spoilers, half he's talking about cameos the other day, how cameos are the death of these films, even though he loves to do cameos in his movies. We got two $20 here. One from Bender the Offender says, Disney shot themselves in the foot when they didn't allow Johnny Depp to star in the new Pirates movie. The franchise would be dead without him.
You mean the female-led one?
Yeah. That'd be really
I don't know
funny
if Johnny Depp was going to transition for that one, but
if they did a female like Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but they just
weren't they talking about Margot Robbie?
Yes.
Being
that fell
lead.
through. That
fell through.
They're not doing that
Ryan
anymore.
the Eating Warrior said, I am loving the Alpha Core comic. Great story and awesome artwork. Thanks for what you do, my guy. I'm always on the lookout for the next Rippaverse comic.
Oh, shout out. Appreciate you. I'm glad you love it. Everybody's getting their Alpha Core now. And yeah, just keep telling us what you think, man.
All right, guys. Let's talk a little bit. So we already got into all the Netflix stuff. We did that. Basically the data dump says that like the 80% of the shows, over 10,000 titles, just get no views. Less than a million hours total accrued view time, which is insane considering a lot of these they're shows that have endless amounts of seasons and stuff, right? So it should accrue that time really, really easily, but it's not. And I think that really, the article I was reading was basically saying like mediocre entertainment is here to stay, meaning like Night Agent, which I don't know anyone that has actually watched it, was their #1 most watched show this year. I don't know anyone that's seen it. And Wednesday, which is the show that got all the buzz and all the promotion, was like #4. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you can really trust the numbers. I think Netflix is a publicly traded company, so I don't think they could legally lie to you, but they just can't lie to you about fiscal numbers, right? Yeah. I don't know if that, do you think that extends to hours watched?
Well, look, man, there's a lot of funny numbers, funny money with these companies, any company that's big. It's not anything exclusive to Netflix or anything, but I do believe that there's a mountain of shows that nobody's really watching, and they have those, that carry kind of the entire company, if you want to call it that. So I believe that part. I don't understand really the business plan there. It's clearly working, at least in some capacity, because they're at least profitable in some kind of way. So it's working, but I wonder, we kind of were talking about this off air about, now that everybody's talking about streaming residuals and how that looks. I'm like, how do you quantify that? Because there's no way that you're getting a return.
Yeah.
So it's like when you talk about getting residuals, it's like residuals of what?
Yeah.
Nobody's watching it.
And they wanted the bonus as well to pay into the like the actual agency into the Actors Guild, right? And they just overstepped their hand in a lot of ways in that. And there is, guys, if you go look it up, you can find it. There is a breakdown of how the new residuals work, but they basically say that it's meritocratic, that it's going to be based on the shows that actually do well, which everyone here has been saying forever anyways. The ones who make good content are the ones who should be rewarded for their work, and the people who are just hanging on should go by the wayside.
Initially, what they wanted to do, which is foolish, nobody's going to sign any deal like that, is they just wanted the numbers from the revenue. And it's like, just because a company is bringing in an X amount of money does not mean that they're profitable per se. So they wanted money off the top regardless. It's like, who the hell would sign a deal? Maybe you make some money after we've made money, but you can't just get a certain percentage of X amount of money that we bring in for everything it is that we produce. That is absolutely asinine. And the fact they thought that they were going to get that is crazy. But yeah, it makes sense. If something becomes profitable, the creatives are going to be the ones benefiting, from it. However, I just don't see that in streaming. I don't see that being that many shows or movies. That, hardly anybody's going to be getting money.
They want residuals from Orange is the New Black, like 12 years later.
But also, this is also because actors are, in a lot of ways, they're activists and they're champagne socialists, and they don't understand how business works.
They're talent. Of course they don't understand how business works, and I don't hold that against them. I hold the strike against them.
No, yeah, like I don't hold it against them to not understand business. I do hold it against them to not understand business, but then make demands of people that do. Yeah. And that's not absolving Netflix or any of these companies who do plenty of shady shit all the time, right? Nobody's absolving them of that. We got a $20 one here from Nathan Rayner says, came home from work yesterday to my wife watching The Night Agents. Okay, so
some people watch The Night
We've met
Agents.
Somebody now who's
there are a couple more people in the chat that said they liked it.
Maybe they'll get some residuals.
See, well, here's the thing. Like, my favorite show that's come out in the last 3 years was Reacher on Amazon Prime, right?
Reacher 2 just came out, right?
Exactly. So the first 3 episodes just came out. Now they're doing weekly releases after that because they realized that the show is actually enjoyable. So now people are going to tune in for longer. So I would like to see a show like that be rewarded, and it was. It got a season 3 renewal before the new season even started. I want to see shows that do well be rewarded for it because that's how you actually organically change the economy for all of these properties, right? Yeah. You can't let these things be propped up by business investment and by funny numbers and ideology, but there is a lot of that still.
Well, the thing is, if they do move it more to meritocracy, there's a lot of these guys ain't making it on the other side. And I think that's what's scary for really everybody that's involved, actors, actresses, directors. Yeah, you get a benefit when you work with a multi-billion-dollar multinational company. However, if they start cracking down on things and really, hey, man, we're just going to go with what works, there's going to be a lot less titles, a lot less shows, a lot less movies. I'm okay with that. I have no issues with that you couldn't possibly consume all the content that's out there. But yeah, a lot of these guys aren't going to make it on the other side because they've been effectively these mega corporate entities. I talk about this with Marvel and DC all the time. They're the sugar daddies of these industries. And I think they're at least somewhat smart enough to understand it. May be economically illiterate, but they're smart enough to understand that if those go away, which is why they wanted to enter a deal with the devil, because if those go away, where do they go? Yeah. They can't like create their own properties and start making money off of that. No, the only way that they're going to make money doing what it is that they love to do, even if it's being an activist or masquerading as one, whatever you want to call it, is to work for these mega corporate entities. So it was in their best interest to, was the AMTPT or whatever it's called, to make a deal with them. They can bitch and moan all day long and cry and say, oh, well, these guys are greedy. Well, you need them at the end of the day, and they knew that.
They don't need you, you need them, because they can hire people to make new properties if they want. Yeah. But the other thing that's funny about that is, if you remember, the comic book industry eventually did have to, Marvel had to sell off a lot of their characters back in the day. They had to sell off the rights.
They almost went under, bankrupt in the late 90s.
They had to sell. I mean, there's a reason why they spent so much money to reacquire the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and they would love to have Spider-Man back, but they're never going to give him back.
Sony's not giving that up.
They're not going to. The other thing that's funny about that is you were talking about branching out, and you have to do more than just you can't just do just the movies, you can't do just the TV shows or just the parks. Spider-Man, whether you read the comics or not, everywhere you go, you'll see a kid wearing a Spider-Man shirt to this day. Mm-hmm. Like, Batman and Spider-Man are the most popular superheroes of all time, and that shows in merch, not just in people who read the comics, because the comic book marketplace has shrunk so much now that it's just not going to do the numbers they need to survive.
Yeah. Look, man, we want to go down that rabbit hole of those guys. Look, it is very well possible. I'm not going to say it is going to happen, but let's say this. If we're talking about Warner and their problems, if they came out today and said, hey, the publication stuff, we're ending that, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because there's no way that they're making money off that. To be fair, the economic setup of comics has never made any damn sense. The direct market is retarded. I'm sorry, I can't find a better word than that. That's just what it is. It doesn't make any damn sense. And then you start to put the pieces together. When you actually look into it, you find out, okay, there's a reason why these companies have changed hands so many damn times. There's a reason why the rights got split in the first place, and Marvel was basically split up between the publication and the IP versus the merchandise and the TV and the movies. Reason being is because they found out that this part of it was profitable, but that other part of it was not. And that was the part that Toy Biz had to sort of bail out in the late 90s. It was never really a place where people went to make money, and I think it's largely because of the economic setup. So a lot of what we see even in the mainstream stuff, I think, crosses over as far as like Hollywood and everything. If it may have happened in the comics first, there's a lot of economic illiteracy, and people are Marvel and DC, well, Disney and Warner or Discovery. That's the sugar daddy of the industry, and this is why they fight like hell. We'll talk about the CANCELPIGS situation later, but this is why they fight like hell to protect that, because they understand if all that goes away tomorrow, there is no spot for them. There's nothing for them. They can't do it on their own.
The artists, like I've heard in the past, like some of the artists end up going to video games and they storyboard for video game companies, because video games, they have the money.
Yeah,
right?
that's
the video game industry has the money.
More than Hollywood, everything. Yeah.
Everything right now is you can make a lot. Like the video games are so profitable for them that they can make so much money doing that. But a lot of them, if you're going to leave comics, they can't go out and do it on their own, because it's not something that you can live and die by just the talent. You have to be multifaceted, which is not easy. So
we've seen a lot of people be humbled that have come from the mainstream that maybe have done okay, but it's not really enough to like just eat off of it and all that. And yeah, some of it has to do with marketing, and some of it has to do, a lot of it has to do with really, they were never the draw. Yeah. There's very few people, and this is a harsh reality that a lot of people need to understand with the comic book industry. There's very few people that can call their own shots in comics. You got the guys, artists like Alex Ross, right? He can call his shots. It doesn't matter. He say, I want $10,000 for every cover I do. It's Alex Ross. You're going to pay him whatever the hell he wants. But that's like few and far between. The writers, there's not a whole lot of people that got draw like that. They like you when you're tied to Batman. They like you when you're tied to Spider-Man. But that guy or gal cannot go and then make millions of dollars doing their own thing. It's a very difficult thing. You have to understand business. You have to understand marketing. You have to be personable. And this is just something that a lot of these guys don't have. So when you look at it through that lens, I think a lot of the cancellation stuff, it starts to make sense in their eyes why they are so against a lot of folks in the independent scene. Because again, if that little sugar daddy of theirs crumbles, they understand like what happens to me. Whether you're an editor, whether you're a writer, or whether you want to just kind of the run-of-the-mill artist, who is going to pay you to fail?
Is McFarlane the blueprint early on?
I would say McFarlane figured out how to make money, but a lot of his money's being made in the toy market as opposed to just like comic book stuff. And big shout out to him. He's one of the few guys, again, that can also call his shot. Yeah. Hasbro is going to him. It's just crazy how things have come full circle with McFarlane, which is why I got a lot of respect for him as a businessman, because now all of those guys, even though people got short memory, it's funny, they talk about me and like me going after Marvel and DC, which I don't use the Rippaverse to do that. Yeah. Boys forgot how cutthroat McFarlane was in the 90s, where he was coming out talking all that hot stuff about his competition. I remember watching the commercials of Todd's Toys.
But people love that because it made you feel like you were on a team and you were actually competing.
It worked for him.
You need a competitive market. And let's face it, Stan Lee was very cutthroat in his business practices as well.
You had to be. You had to be. 100%.
There's a $20 super chat here from Jay Raymond. Says, off topic, but it's been killing me. What kind of headphones are you guys using? They're AKGs, I think, still. Is that what we still? Yeah. We've had these for a couple of years now. I don't know the model number though, but you could probably go look it up online. But yeah, like to me, like when you look at the way competition was, this was actually, I don't know if anybody here watches wrestling, but this is what it was like back when WWF and WCW had to compete.
The entire it
got boring after they
remember
won.
The Coca-Cola Wars, Pepsi, all like that was like a big marketing thing in the 90s. Yeah. It was so competitive, fast food restaurants going after each other. I used to love
McDonald's and Burger King.
I used to love that, but that spirit is just gone. It's completely gone.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a
People are just too timid.
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate cultural thing, and they shy away from all of that. People are afraid to compete because I look at the comic book industry like right now and looking at the.
Thank you guys.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
You get used to it eventually.
I'm good. No,
So-
I'm all about the chaos.
Go.
I'm all about the chaos. But so looking at like how competitive it was in the 80s, especially in the 90s as well, like unfortunately, the Japanese have come in and kicked the Americans' ass in their own market, right?
Video games.
Doesn't matter. You
Manga,
name it,
yeah.
manga, you name it. That's just kind of what it is. That lets you know whether the competitive spirit, has just completely been removed because instead of these creatives or this talent that maybe even with the big two saying, all right, we're not gonna allow this. You're not gonna kick our ass in our own industry. Hell, we were the ones that influenced you, right? Y'all do manga, and the cartoons it is that you do because you were influenced by the Disneys of the world. You're not gonna kick our ass in our own industry. Instead, they try to like do these sneaky ways of trying to take credit for it.
Yeah.
Like, we say comics are going down, and they say, oh no, comics are booming, and then you start looking at the numbers in more detail, and you see, wait a minute, those graphic novels that y'all are considering graphic novels are all manga.
Yeah.
You can't take credit for that.
They love to do that when the sales figures come out. However, it's like every 6 months or whatever. The other thing that's funny about that is it would be great to see them try to compete in this marketplace, right? Like it would be cool to see a more organic back and forth. But now I think because of the internet, it gets so vicious.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be that way.
No.
There's a such thing as healthy competition, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That is 100% a thing, as used to be, at least fabric of like American culture, right? It was a part of it. It doesn't mean that you got to beef. Like that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that.
If anything, there's like a certain amount of professional courtesy in something like that, where
Yeah.
you understand that it's professionally competitive, but you tip your hat to your competition.
Yeah, because technically everybody's winning. Like
Yeah.
at that, you're
Yeah.
growing the market. The pie is not fixed. I say it all the time. So when people are being competitive and you're trying to put out the best product, what's going to happen is that market in itself is going to grow. So even if you guys are competing with each other, everybody's going to benefit, even if one is doing better than the other. So.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that in all of these industries, because one of the ways the movies and the television shows could do better is if there was legitimate competition and not just having it all funneled into. I firmly believe that eventually Amazon and Apple will own all of these companies. I do. Like eventually the tech companies will end up owning all of these businesses anyways. Maybe not
Apple
Disney.
buying Disney is a very dystopian concept.
Yes, it is. Like imagine like watch your Disney.
I already
movies
had
on
a
your
nightmare
Apple
about
Watch.
it. I
Like,
literally had a nightmare about Apple buying Disney. This show is taking a toll on my brain.
it does that from time to time, right? All right, let's go. Let's talk about this Twitch situation
Yeah.
real quick, and then we'll come back to it. Mary, do you want to read the new guidelines? Because we just covered this yesterday.
Yesterday, in case you missed it, Twitch decided to completely overhaul their community guidelines as it regards to sexual content and nudity. And for 24 hours, the streaming platform basically became a cam site on the homepage. It was just full pornography on the platform that was allowed, forms of nudity that are illustrated or not. It was all allowed. And then their CEO, Dan Clancy, decided to immediately reverse course and roll back those changes. Here's his newest post. He said, effective today, we're rolling back the artistic nudity changes. Moving forward, depictions of real or fictional nudity won't be allowed on Twitch, regardless of the medium. This restriction does not apply to mature-rated games. You can find emote-specific standards for nudity and sexual content in the emote guidelines. We aren't making other changes to the updated sexual content policy. We're in the process of pushing out updates to our community guidelines that reflect this change. It'll take a few days for both this blog and the community guidelines to be translated. While I wish we would have predicted this outcome, part of our job is to make adjustments that serve the community. I apologize for the confusion this update caused. Yes, we could have never predicted that when we allowed porn, there would be porn on the website.
Eric is in ANCAP.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is your take on it? Oh, also, I have to mention something. So every time we have a guest here on the show, I have them sign. We have them sign a fake $100 bill, and I thought there was some irony by having
me?
an ANCAP signing something from the
a Federal Reserve note. Yeah.
It's, I was like, it's almost too good to to say, luckily it's fake, so he's not putting his signature on an actual Federal Reserve note. But I digress.
We just missed a $20 real quick from Tech. Hey, Brett and Mary, why didn't you tell us you had PCC merch? Also, shout out Eric and the Rippaverse. Alpha Core is a solid comic.
Thank you, appreciate you.
We have been.
We've been trying.
We've been pushing the merch at the start of the. I feel weird pushing the merch, man. You got to get comfortable doing stuff like that.
Well, your money's gonna be made, man.
It's got to make it. So yeah. So what is your take on this? As somebody who's an
well, look, I have no issues with definitely as an ANCAP, people doing whatever they want to do with their private businesses. So rules is not anything I'm necessarily against, right? But yeah, Twitch, seeing them make the mistake over and over and over, it's intriguing, to say the least. I guess that's the only term, like, because I don't understand this last bit of, while I wish we could, like, look, if you couldn't have predicted it, I guess, that spells nothing but incompetence top to bottom with your leadership, and you need to be cleaning house. I don't know what the hell this company is doing. I have no idea what the numbers are in comparison to like the what's Kick, right? Is the other big one right now.
Kick was, remember, they came in the market and they started dropping large checks to creators to try to get them, and they weren't even exclusive deals, right? Yeah. They would give like XQC a whole crap ton of money to come over there, and he was still allowed to stream on other platforms.
Yeah, so I don't know where the money's been made or how it is, because obviously that's what's going to influence their whatever position it is that they had. That's what it ultimately boils down to. I guess they thought that this just wasn't worth it, so it's worth reverting back.
Well, obviously people are theorizing this is because their advertisers went to them and were like, we're going to pull out of this platform if you don't change it back.
I can see that happen. That's probably the only reason why they did it, because that, on the other hand, you're like, the reason why they kind of parade these chicks around is because, well, they make them a lot of money in the same respect. So I guess if you're advertisers, you're probably making more money there. Hell, that's how you subsidize probably this entire platform. If they're the ones that are saying, look, man, we're not really with this, that makes more sense as to why they would turn it around. But again, it still goes back to the original point, like the fact that you couldn't pinpoint that being an issue. Seriously, like if I'm a CEO and I'm like, nobody caught this, like even if you didn't make the decision.
Well, no, they are like hiring these community guidelines consultants. They're in the consultant class that identify as like deer.
Deer, yeah.
And they're prioritizing censoring political speech, not censoring sexual content that is obviously being viewed by the minors on the platform. And there are minors who are streaming on the platform as well. Is that allowed? Are the under 18 users allowed to stream?
I'm not sure.
Because they have been. Yeah. And then Bloomberg did this whole report about how there is a underground PDF file ring on Twitch.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Going into this just chatting section at the very bottom, finding children, and then getting them to do certain poses and dancing for them and grooming them essentially. Yeah. And they did nothing to address that.
Yeah, like so it's a competence thing, right? That's what it goes back to. It's like you're not, to your point, they're not putting people in positions that deserve to be there or should be there, and are going to sort of ensure the growth of your business. I mean, look, Amazon's been one of the big ones, checking these boxes and bringing people in based on identity and all this goofy stuff, instead of bringing folks in who, I don't know, would figure, hey, with the change of these rules, we're going to incentivize these chicks to do this sort of thing. Again, it just blows my mind. I say this as the CEO of my own company. I would be very upset if there was a decision that was just that obvious that was made and nobody caught it, right? Because you got to look at it like that, through the layers of approval that had to go through.
That's kind of what like, is it because it gets bogged down in just the immense amount of people involved in this decision making that they just can't see the forest through the trees?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more of just sheer incompetence, because I don't think, definitely with a policy change, more than likely what's happening is that you have several layers, right? There's several different, be it in the department itself or departments, that have to at least glance at something before it becomes like effectively the new policy or whatever it is. So for someone to throw out a crap idea, this is what I talk about with the mega corporations all the time, and why it blows my mind that some of these goofy storylines get approved. I don't just look at and blame the writer. because I'm like, well, someone had to green light that, right?
Not that, but then also like there's editors that should be checking the product.
Editors, your creative, whatever creative managers, whatever VPs, like nobody looked at that and said that's a terrible idea.
And a lot of them are disconnected with what the public sentiment is because they're in their own bubble of sorts. So if you don't have anyone, and I guess maybe this is also just a product of the internet age, right? You get instant feedback right away, and they're not taking advantage of the fact that you could put your, basically you could ostensibly put your finger on the pulse of what people think about your material right now, but you have to be willing to be harsh with yourself and look at it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But when there's 9,000 people and all of the blame is dispersed between, like, who loses their job because of this? Did anybody at Twitch lose their job because of this?
They should have. They should have.
But there's nobody that's actually one person that's held accountable.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's either one, incompetence, right, or the people that had enough sense didn't at least have enough power to say no, to stop it from happening.
Yeah.
That's what I look at with some of these goofy decisions that get made in comics. It's not just the writer. I'm like, multiple people had to approve of whatever goofy thing is being done.
I really do think it is one of those things where they're like somebody's like, well, it's not my problem. If it goes bad, it's not my problem. I've got my job. I've got my...
Well, I think this is why it's important and why I think a Marvel and a DC would be so better off in the hands of someone that was actually not only connected to the industry, but it's this thing called incentive, right? This is human nature or human action, whatever it is that you want to call it. And that when, like, for example, with me being so rooted and basically being the EIC of Rippaverse, right? I feel everything, right? So every decision that gets made, I have to feel it. I'm scanning through it. I have to see it. It has to get approved. So whether we succeed or fail in anything it is that we do, at least I'm aware of it, and I can say that it's on me.
Radical ownership of what happened.
Right. So I'm okay with that. But I'm not thinking like with Warner. I know we talk about Zaslav, like, you know, when Tim Drake turns gay, Zaslav, he ain't got nothing to do with that.
He doesn't know.
He has probably no idea that type of stuff is going because they're so far disconnected from it. So I do believe that these companies are going to go under before they get better anyway. The best case scenario is going to be that someone that gives a damn, that has a lot of money and is going to be really tapped in and connected, somehow has enough to buy the rights from these companies. But as long as they are attached to these mega corporations, their infrastructure does not allow them to pivot, and it doesn't lend itself any sort of credence to any idea of improvement because it's a structural sort of issue there.
It does feel like maybe it's just because like when you do like what you do in this world, right, where you're constantly reporting on news stories and you're following what these companies do, it can be a little bit blackpilling because it feels like nothing changes because you're so connected to the cycle, right? You're not just checking on a story now and then checking back 6 months later. Like, you look at what happens with Twitch and you're like, that's at least a little bit of a change right off the bat, but the company's going to still ride the line. They're still going to promote these streamers, and you're still going to get the constant argument back and forth as to whether this type of content should be on the platform anyways. And because nobody is held responsible if things go bad, because the corporation size, like when you say Zaslav and you say Tim Drake, it's not just the fact that he's up here and like the editor is down here. Then there's chief editor, there's associate editor, chief editor,
lead editors.
There's 3 levels of HR managers before you get all the way there, all the way up to the top. It's no wonder nobody, like, that's 10 memos down on his day, and he's not reading that one until 10 p.m. and he's like, I didn't know. He's like, it's Pride Month. I didn't care. I didn't know it was a problem. Like, how do you expect the guy to know, right? And that is a problem with the size of these corporations just being so massive that there's nothing they can do about it. When we talk about Disney changing, I'm like, this is not something that you're going to notice in the next year. It's not something you're probably even going to notice in 2 years. It's like trying to turn the Titanic. It's the corporation's too large. The DEI structure of a lot of these businesses are so ingrained in the corporate side of things, you're not going to see any of those changes anytime soon. You're not going to see a meritocratic solution in the next 2 to 3 years.
That's what I'm saying. This is the benefit of like the more smaller company, and you can be wildly successful. Rippaverse is an example of that. Make a lot of money while still being connected. I do believe that that's the wave of the future, because if I put out a book that just nobody liked, right? Nobody enjoyed, I get to pivot. Right, like I can say, all right, well, let's just not do that anymore. Yeah. That was a terrible idea. Nobody liked it. They
got to double down.
They have to. Yeah. They absolutely have to. By the time it gets to the guys that matter, like, you know, we're probably 4 or 5 years removed from I think it's trying to steer the Titanic is a great kind of analogy for that. That's really the approach. Like, they can't pivot. They don't have, and this is the advantage of the smaller entities, which is why I'm always screaming at people, look, man, this is your time to go out there and be great and be an alternative. And that is your one advantage, is that you keep your ear to the streets. So you understand what's a good idea versus what's a bad idea. And you can make a lot of money in the process by simply paying attention to what it is that your audience wants, because that's not what they're getting from the mainstream. They're not getting anything close to that. It feels like they're making this stuff out of spite, right? More than anything. And maybe it has been, years in the making, but just the fact that they can't pivot like that is an advantage that alternatives have.
We got a $20 from Nate Garland. Said, glad to hear. Yes, parents should know what their kids watch, but how old were you when you were exposed to adult content? Did your parents know? I believe it was a bad decision. Anyone want to tell me why it was a good one? Well, not here. We don't think it was a good decision.
The argument that I made yesterday was, I said, look, at the end of the day, it's your job as a parent to make sure that you're watching what your kids are taking in far as internet content and stuff like that. And we do as a society want to put the onus onto these companies, but we have a whole generation of kids that are being raised by tablets, and that's a problem too, right?
That two things can be true, right? They can be goofy and maybe a little bit maybe there's harsher terms to describe what it is that they're doing. You want to throw the term predatory, whatever it is. But yeah, to your point, there has to be some sort of accountability and responsibility by these parents who unfortunately don't want to be parents at all anyway. They want someone else to raise them, and that's what's going to happen.
Kai Cenat is going to raise the sons.
Well, it is also true, though, that if the advertisers were the reason behind these changes, I mean, isn't that the free market asserting its position?
Oh, yeah,
right?
that's a positive thing.
It's a positive
that's
thing.
A positive thing, for sure.
All right, well, I don't expect any corporation to share morals with any person, because corporations don't have morals.
Yeah.
They have, what is it they always say? They have... not a company motto. They have company
slogans,
values, or they have like corporate values or corporate values. And I'm just like, that's not a real thing. You're not a person. You can't have values. So, all right, what would you like to see? We do a segment here called Cringe and Cute of the Day. Cringe is
you have to see both anyway.
Yes.
But what would you like to see first?
Let's go with the cringe. I'm always for that.
All right, cool.
We'll go cringe. I had this one sent to me earlier today on Twitter. You'll be able to see it over here. This is our good friend Alyssa Milano. Everybody remembers Alyssa Milano. Did anybody see this video?
I did not.
Women don't inseminate themselves. Women don't inseminate themselves. Women don't inseminate themselves.
Okay, factual.
Women don't inseminate themselves.
I like the
What is that? What is the point, though?
I like
what is
the
she
ring
saying?
light bouncing off like the SSRI like look in her eyes that
What
just
was
says
her-
antidepressants to me.
What was she trying to say?
I guess, is this something about abortion? It was without context. It was just like, look at this video.
Also, if they get a sperm donation, they are inseminating themselves.
There you go. So he says, didn't she just prove the difference between men and women? Yes, she did. She absolutely did. I always wonder.
Birthing people don't inseminate themselves.
Back in the day.
How dare she misgender?
When these celebrities were like under the thumb of like managers and agents who knew what was best for them, whether they were greedy or not, they're like, shut up. Just don't, like, the phone was the worst thing to happen to the modern day celebrity and the best thing to happen to.
We did miss another $20 from the Ninja Bear. Twitch may have walked back the guidelines, but they still have the same meta. You don't even need to log in to see it. No age verify. 13 and above can stream. At least corn stores required ID to enter. Absolutely agree.
I wonder how did those corn stores like give your ID a vigorous check? Were they bending it and
getting more trouble than a liquor store?
I remember the first. I think it was in when I went to. It must have been. It was either Massachusetts, but one of these states that has like its ID is like it's basically hard plastic. And I was coming from Minnesota. In Minnesota the IDs bend. Whatever, it's a very, very flexible material, and the guy thought it was fake. Like we were at a liquor store, and the guy thought it was fake because it wouldn't bend. And I was like, at least that guy checked, right? Yeah. He double checked and ran it. Like
are they supposed to cut it in half if they think it's fake?
I mean, technically that would be destruction of government property. You might actually be able to get in trouble for that. If they did that and it was real, you might actually be able to get in trouble for that. Another bit of government overreach right
Thank you, Alyssa Milano.
Yes.
Very cool.
Shout out Alyssa Milano.
Yeah. Thank you.
Guys, enough. Only
Third Prices Party.
Only this had gone off while she was dancing. That'd have been good. All right. Thank you, Phil. I've got a couple here. This is from Corey Moreau. Says this is Mr. Rufus. He can't wait for Santa to come. So the viewers here share their pets.
How
Everyone
did you
loves their pets.
wrestle a cat into a sweater like that?
That's impressive.
That is very impressive.
My cats would never.
Have you ever seen those videos? My algorithm may be different than everyone else's. Everybody always makes fun of my unhinged algorithm, but I also get these videos of this person who has like a Shiba, and it's the calmest dog I've ever seen in my entire life, and it just lets itself be like, it has its nails clipped.
Oh, I've seen those, yeah.
And it's just, I was like, what drugs did
Especially a Shiba. Yeah. Like Shibas, they'll get a little rowdy, man.
I was like, what drugs did you give that dog? It looks not half knocked out the whole time.
I've
But
seen that.
that dog lives better than me. That dog is far better groomed than I've ever been. So, all right, we got one more here. This is from Jacob. It says, Lucy is back. Her stealth mode is becoming more advanced as the day goes by. You can see her the snout is,
okay.
she's hiding.
Caught that.
She's hiding.
Check you out.
All right, guys. Now that we're an hour and 1 minute into the
It's
show,
fine.
ladies and gentlemen. It's fine. Let's go ahead and talk about you, and let's talk about your company.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So why don't you first give everyone, anyone who doesn't know, there might actually be one or two people in here who don't know who you are and what your business is.
Yeah, so again, I'm Eric. My name's Eric July. I've dabbed in a little bit of everything. Was more so known for like the music as well as the commentary stuff. However, last year I started my first comic book company as a venture, own publisher as well as our own distributor, and we launched with a book called ISOM #1, and it was a $3.7 million campaign, and then we backdoored that with ISOM #2, which also made a couple of $1 million, and now we are with Alpha Core #1, which is our first non-ISOM property. Is wrote by the great Chuck Dixon, prolific writer, done Batman, Punisher, a lot of members of the Bat family, you name it, as well as Joe Bennett, who's also done a lot of stuff over the last couple of decades. And it's just an incredible book it's basically a police procedural. It's funny, we were talking about that a little bit.
I love that.
I know, yeah.
Like, that's my genre.
Yeah, so it's a police procedural with superheroes, if you can imagine it. It's a trio in terms of a team that works directly with the Flores Park police force in our universe. So you can go get that. It's active. It won't end until the 20th of January. We have a great little bundle in that campaign as well, where you can get ISOM 1, ISOM 2, as well as Alpha Core #1 for $65, and that's over 300 pages of material there that's been released in the last year and a half. So yeah, that venture it's massive. Did not expect it to do this. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'd be lying to you if I was like, oh yeah, I figured we were going to make a few $1 million off of this.
Because you had to build your own infrastructure to do this. If you don't follow independent comics or people who do their own crowdfunding, is most of them have to use a platform like Indiegogo, or they have to use Kickstarter, but you had to build out your own infrastructure to get all this started.
Yeah, so we did everything from the ground up. I wanted to truly make this an independent venture. There are some economic problems that I think plague the industry. So we did everything ourselves. So we built our own website, right? So we could, it's funny. I remember a lot of people trying to talk me off the ledge back when I did that. And it's funny because now with Indiegogo and this whole shadow banning thing that's going on, it looks like I made the right decision.
And political commissars there as well.
Oh yeah,
well before
especially
that
yeah, absolutely. So, we had to build that infrastructure. It took a lot of time and a lot of money. I invested on upward of $200,000, $300,000 of my own money to make this whole thing happen. And yeah, we're still kind of catching up with our demand, with us having a couple of warehouses under us, because we do handle our own distribution as well. So everything is handled by us, from the actual transaction between ourselves and the customers, as well as you getting it. The only thing we don't do is literally drive the truck to go deliver it to you. Maybe Rippaverse shipping will be a thing at this rate as well, because it's one of those I do it myself type of situations as we learn more and more about just the business in general. So yeah, that was a tough thing. It was a lot of challenges that was associated with that, and I'm just blessed to be in this position to where we have genuine enthusiasm. It's what the comic book industry has missed, but that's the reason why we're able to be successful, because people are really, really into this.
What's interesting to me is, the very first video of yours that I remember was the dressing down of Supergirl.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
Yes, so early. So you were a content creator before that. You were doing your own critiques of what was going on in comics. And one of the things that is a big talking point in this industry right now, whether it's the Daily Wire, who are making their own movies, it says you can't just be critical of the culture. You have to also be willing to create and do your own version of the culture. Was there like a specific moment? Was there like one story that finally came out or one comic you read that was just the last straw and you're like, that's it? Like you just said earlier, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, it was less that. I mean, it was more of, it was symbolic for sure, at least for me. Because for people that don't know, I was a commentator and I was spending several $100s a week on comic book stuff. New and old, keeping up with this stuff, doing reviews, covering just for, me just being a comic guy. I spent a lot of money over the years. And this material was so bad. And I figured, like, you know what? I'm done. And I just can't do this anymore. It's like I'm wasting money. I'm giving money to people that absolutely despise me. But I have a creative bone in my body. And I believe that God put me on this earth to create. And I think he tells me this by allowing me to be as successful as I've been with music. Like, that was my most successful venture. We're Billboard charting, metal band, right? Metalcore band. We were the #2 heat seeker album in the country with Veracity. And up until now, that was my most successful original venture. And then we move into the Rippaverse, and now it's a multi-million-dollar comic book company. So look, I love this industry. I do want to see it thrive, and I figure that I have a lot to offer because I've collected a lot of business acumen and sense over the last 18 years or however long that I've kind of been in the public light, at least doing, I came from the mixtape era of music, where you were selling like mixtapes out of your trunk. So I always knew how to hustle. But to kind of implement this in the comic book realm was my contribution to this industry to be part of the solution, because I did a whole lot of bitching over the years about what was going on with the industry.
Do you think that the term, because one of the things that a lot of it comes down to semantics, and a lot of people talk about whether the industry is dying or whether it's just shifting and becoming something different. Do you think that the term the death of the comic book industry is applicable? I
think it is as far as the old model. I believe it's old, it's broken, it's archaic, and it will never survive. It never survived. When you go look at the history of comic books, especially with the implementation of the direct market, it never made any sense. And there's a reason, again, why Marvel went bankrupt almost in all of our lifetimes. That was not that long ago when that actually happened. So looking at just by the sheer numbers, right, the unit sales, don't take my word for nothing. You can go look it up yourself. These people that have been lying to the public that are part of the comic book industry because they want to act as if it's doing better than what it is, because, again, they have to protect their sugar daddy. But don't take my word for anything. The last time the numbers were available, if you want to take a year like 2021, compare that to 2016. Compare that to 2011, 2000. You'll see that the unit sales for the top 100 comics have gone down. There are numbers that will get you in the tops right now that were cancelable back in the gap. You put up those numbers where you're only selling like 50,000 comic books. Those were numbers that would say you're off the project. We're going to get a new creative team and we're going to figure this thing out. Now that's considered okay. No. So dying, I believe, is accurate. However, it is going to need to shift into this sort of new thing. And I'm not saying that everything needs to shift to a crowdfunding model. I don't think that makes sense for everybody, like it doesn't make sense for us, but it has changed the game, and the barrier of entry has been lowered, which is of great benefit, and that's a net positive for this industry. But whatever it is, the economics of it all has to change, and especially creatively, it has to change. So I think dying is accurate.
Yeah, and like you said, barrier to entry is different now because people can go out and do this on their own, and that helps build the organic following that seems to be missing from the big two these days, right? The manufactured hype around it. One of the things I was actually going to ask is, how could these corporations, which don't have that ability because they're a corporate structure, won't allow for that.
Correct.
It's just not going to work. It seems like in the past, the only way they could figure out how to try to build any excitement was with endless either reboots or like team up series or event series, which they just do over and over again. And one of the things they were talking about is like, look, when was the last time you saw anything that had the hype of something like Civil War or something like what would have been the last, I guess, Secret. They tried to do it with Secret Wars, all these things. But the more you do the event series, the more watered down it becomes, and it's cheap and it doesn't work. Similar to how back in the day it was when they fell into the trope of the death of a comic book character, right? That was symbolic, sort of around the last time the industry was basically collapsing.
Yeah, most definitely. Look, it's not just this quote unquote woke stuff. I've said this many times. If you go look at, for example, the Rippaverse and our code of ethics, there are other things that I have and people that have followed me understand. It wasn't just, oh, this social bull crap that plagues the industry that I was bitching about. I was always crying about like timeline issues. The canon doesn't make any sense. These reboots, all of that sort of stuff. All of that is a problem, right? It's a fundamental problem with the industry to now where they feel like they have to do event after event to get some sort of enthusiasm or excitement. They have to reboot everything. No, there's no what is a long-standing series anymore. Like these aren't hitting 100 issues.
They get 10
anymore.
issues and then they can
reboot it. Let's try it again because they know that. Well, that's what we're going to get our spike. Where we're going to get our spike from. So there are a lot of creative problems, economic issues that plague the industry, and this is an opportunity for folks like myself and the various amount of other creatives that are out there that understand. Like, look, there is a demand for it, and yes, if it keeps going the direction that it's going, like I said earlier, it's going to look a lot different. And yes, a lot of people aren't going to make it on the other side. It's going to be extremely competitive, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to make it on the other side because we're dealing with our own money. I don't got time to be, I can't, if I'm going to choose between the great Chuck Dixon or Mike Barron, if I'm going to choose between them or Max Visaggio, I'm choosing Chuck and Mike every day of the week. And people that want to make money when they're dealing with their own money, that's the choice that they're going to make. So it's not going to be a lot of room for these guys. And I think that's what's absolutely terrifying. So that's why they're trying to dumb down what plagues the industry right now, because they need people under the illusion that everything is fine. Yeah. Because if it goes away, like I said, they're done. They're done.
They're in the underground bunker right now.
Yeah, effectively.
It's also funny, too, because they all seem to hate corporations, but are afraid to admit that they need them because, like you said, they're not investing their own money in these projects because they wouldn't get hired by somebody who's putting up their own capital. But when it's structured on these businesses that have, like we said, Marvel and DC, Marvel, the comics division is a write-off for Disney. That's just such a line note for a company that's losing billions on so many other ventures. Same with DC, right? I want to know how important it is, because what we were talking about earlier is that is not showing any amount of restraint. We talk a lot about the idea of self-inserts. That's a big topic of discussion a lot these days. How important is the editor? Because like you said, the buck stops with you now. Like this is the first book here, Alpha Core, is the first one that's not a main ISOM story, which means somebody else is writing it. But the buck stops with you as far as editing. Is that one of the things that's missing right these is the editors aren't doing their job?
Well, I don't even know what an editor does these days. There's no Jim Shooter over there to tell people to get the train back on the tracks. They don't have that anymore, and they certainly aren't commanding, because they're probably all holding ideological guns to each other, waiting to cancel each other anyway. And God forbid you disagree because there's some woman that has some stupid topic it is that they want to do a story, and God forbid that you say, no, you can't do that. Oh yeah, you're out of there. They're calling you all sorts of names, and they fear for that.
Mary, this is why whenever you see anybody eating in a comic book movie, this is why I get annoyed, because they love to put in scenes of people eating, which is something that yes, it doesn't matter. It's stupid. There is a place in the world for slice of life stories. It's just not supposed to be done in that model.
Well, isn't it supposed to be the frame for like a conversation that needs to happen in the story?
But they don't have important conversations when they're doing it.
Oh no, they don't. It's not like they're moving the plot along with any of that stuff.
This is a bit of an abstract question. Is there too much of a focus on allegory?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if you want to talk mainstream, it's, of course, everything has to represent their personal, social, and ideological views. That's just the reality, and it makes for bad story. Now, what these freaking liars would say is that, well, it's always been this way. So they'll everything's always been political and yada yada, and Captain America.
You mentioned it earlier. You mentioned he wasn't just hitting Nazis.
He used to punch. He used to literally be called the Commie Slayer. That that was Captain America's name. The Commie Slayer, that was his name. It was more balanced. So you can't even appeal to the whole political stuff, because I'd argue that that's the problem. If you are going to entertain that stuff, there's no balance.
Well, here's a question. I mean, does your own worldview come through in your work at all?
No, people aren't going to be able to see that. And if it is, it's like, hey, universal truths, not necessarily like
They're not universal truths that everyone universally agrees upon these days.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing. What's good, what's evil, and yeah. But I like to believe that there's a nice demographic that understands the difference between what's good and evil. But no, I'm an ANCAP. Everybody knows that our second property is 3 cops.
Yep. Wouldn't normally be something you'd
Good point.
see from somebody who doesn't like the state.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I leave my stuff at the door, and everybody here does. All the writers do. That's kind of what it is that we agree to. It's like, dude, leave it at the door, man. Like, people don't want to read this stuff. Look, I'm not knocking anybody that goes out there and they want to do this sort of political stuff. Whatever, you can do that, but that's not what it is that we're trying to do here. Like, I'm not trying to write myself into or my political views into the comic book.
I actually think they make it harder on themselves, because I don't think that they realize that writing good political content, whether it's movies, television, or comics, is actually some of the hardest stuff to do, because to do it right, you cannot present the opposite argument as a straw man.
What was that comic that we were arguing about like many months ago by Mike Barron?
It was
The Private American.
yeah.
We were arguing about that because I was like, this is clearly very politically charged, just in the opposite direction.
My issue with it was with the trailer just felt very Fox News oriented, so it might turn off some of the demographic. But if you've got your own audience, then that's what they're buying into. But what I mean is, like, look, right now, one of the best examples is, if you've ever watched a show called The West Wing. The West Wing is an inherently very liberal show. It's from a liberal perspective. It's a liberal president, but it's really, really good. A lot of the conservatives are portrayed poorly, or there's a show like Yellowstone, which can show complex issues from both sides of the aisle. Even if they are picking a side, they don't give you the worst possible argument of the opposite side, but they can't do that these days. They can only portray the people that they disagree with as thugs and dorks, or give you the worst straw man argument.
Well,
why handicap
That's the
yourself?
problem with mainstream comics. I mean, I remember vividly, Barack Obama was president. He gets on the cover of Amazing Spider-Man. Hell, they even created several characters. Miles Morales was created, conceptualized because we had a biracial president. They had the Val Zod thing with the President Superman stuff. Excuse me.
Which Michael B. Jordan wanted to make a movie about, and then they never did.
Yeah. So they did all that. The reason why I say that is, that shows their favoritism, because now Trump becomes president, he becomes MODOK, right? You make him into that's what Marvel literally did that. Yeah. Or with DC and what they had, for those that don't remember that Black Label story, where the Joker was literally Trump. Yeah. Like, he was literally like, that was who he was. So that's how they portray the opposite side. I think people would be saying less, get the politics out of comics, if there was some sort of balance. But there's no balance. It's leaning heavily one way.
And like, for instance, Frank Miller in The Dark Knight Returns, there was criticisms of Reagan, right, in stuff like that. So, but that was in an interesting story that was a lot of fun, and it was just a different time. You didn't have the same climate we have today. But I read that, I've read that, and I love the animated movie of The Dark Knight Returns, which I think is actually one of the only good ones they've made. I used to love DC animated movies. Not really all that great post 2012, but that's besides the point. But the point being, like, I watch that and I see criticisms of the military-industrial complex. I see criticisms of authoritarian power, which are all good themes, which don't have to be inherently political.
No, it's like I said, that's what I would consider a universal truth. Yeah. Right. So that's the thing. They don't know what that is at all. And look, when you're obsessed over your own, and look, this is a vehicle. People need to understand this. We talked about it before earlier with Tim about this Batman story where Batman's flying over or floating over a riot, right? And instead of the dispersing of the actual, which is what Batman would do, like do something, he just floats right on by it, and he says basically they all have insurance.
That should infuriate everywhere.
That's not Batman.
It's not Batman.
Yeah.
More than anything, it's not Batman. And remember, this was the company that was saying, like, tell us why Batman is a bad person, right? Yeah, the barrier to entry to work here. Why is Batman a bad person?
No, they said, like, why is Batman racist?
Yeah,
or
like,
something. That was like the actual question.
They're so outside the spectrum. I guess this is just the Overton window asserting itself, right? Like the people who are writing these things. Again, this is where an editor would come in handy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
An editor
100%.
says, I've got 60 years of stories here. There's a trope on There's an Instagram trope where it's like you steal a muffin at
and then Batman. Yeah,
and Batman just comes and kicks the shit out of you.
That's Batman-esque, right?
And I love that, and that's great because it's authentic to the character. But they do this, and it's like you have now fundamentally changed one of the most important aspects of this character.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that you make excuses and say he's only popular or he's only successful because he's rich and white, which means you have no understanding of who the character is at his core.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't imagine or you can't believe for a second that people who have followed this industry for that long are going to pick that up and read it and want to ever pick up another issue.
Yeah,
again.
they're going to check out. That's like guys, look, again, for people that know how much money that I used to spend, when I walked away from it, that says a lot because I stuck around a lot longer than a lot of other people spending this amount of money. They have lost a lot of long-time comic book guys and gals, lifers, whatever it is that you want to call them. They're no longer buying into that because their characters are recognizable because it's been hijacked by a bunch of, let's call them what they are, authoritarian leftists that feel like they have to use these characters as a vehicle and a platform for their own individual views. And we talk about what's an analogy, and if they lean too much on it, they do, but they're not even good at that.
Yeah.
What they're doing is beating the audience over the head. Like, I can read a story, and I'm like, I know exactly what the politics of this person is. Hell, I can probably guess how they look based on what it is that they wrote with this crappy story. They don't care to understand the characters.
And what sucks about that is, like, back in the day, the writer, it would have been a badge of honor for them to not be able to tell.
That's a good writer. Like,
yes.
a good writer would be like, and Chuck Dixon spoke about this with me publicly, where it's like, I don't want you to think about me when we're writing a story. Yeah. Or when you're reading this, it's just, that's Batman or whatever it is, Punisher, whatever it is. You're just reading that story. And oftentimes it does, like, it goes one or the other way. It's like either this person was extremely good, right? You're a long-time comic book collector. This writer was extremely well, and it made you want to understand who this person was more, or they were just absolutely terrible and they wrote something that was just dog water, and you're like, look, man, I need to find out who the hell this is.
It's sad because these are things where this medium, especially in an age now where so much of the world is going away from print media, this could be something that could really be good for society to have this type of thing be a place for people to escape to and show their kids and bring their kids into it like that. But they're not, and they're not creating anything that the youth is going to really. It's not going to connect with the youth of today.
No, they're trending more towards a different type of comic book in manga. That's what it is. And again,
exactly, manga has exploded.
That should piss off, from a competitive perspective, a lot of these American creators. You should look at that and say, how in the hell these fools done translated this and they got us reading the wrong way, and they're kicking your ass in your own industry, the industry that the American culture influenced them to do this, and now they're doing it way better, and it's more intriguing. You should look at that and have a bit of humility and want to adjust course, but that's not how it is that they operate. Instead, they get pissed off at anybody that talks about this honestly and just points out the simple fact that the industry is in decline. It doesn't matter where you're at politically. If you just acknowledge that truth, it's a factual statement, you're going to get called every negative thing in the book, and they're going to treat you with so much contempt.
Speaking of contempt, let's talk cancel pigs, shall we? So this is you touched on it a little bit when you were you mentioned it with Tim. So the best way to describe this was a comic book shop owner went out and he did a video, and he addressed some of the base level concerns about what is going wrong in the comic book industry, and I'm talking like base level. Let's watch the first 50 seconds of this video. It's Glenn O'Leary is his his name, and the backlash he got for this was insane. And we are
And he's
now
literally,
seeing...
he's not even a talking head. He's just the owner of a comic book
And he's
store.
done it for like almost 3 decades, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, humility would allow you to realize that you should pay attention to someone like this who has this much experience. But let's go ahead and watch just the first 50 seconds of this video so you can see what we're talking about here.
Most of these new writers don't have the love of comics like these older writers had. And all they care about is, how can I put myself in the book? No, we don't care what you would do if you were Iron Man. We don't care who you are. You're writing Tony Stark. You're not writing yourself in a book. If that's the case, write your own comic with you in it. No one will read it because nobody cares. People grew up, are growing up loving Peter Parker, loving Miles Morales, loving all these Captain America. We don't need you to put your input in it. Just write Steve Rogers. Don't write Steve Rogers. What would Steve Rogers be if I was Steve Rogers? That's not how it works. But that's again how most of these new people write nowadays. That's why most of the stuff is shit. Because we don't.
He's right.
He's
apparently right.
Factual statement.
He's every single thing he said is right there.
So the cancel pigs were mobilized in response to this video, as I understand it, and just started railing against this guy for his looks.
So one of the things that I was telling you before the show, I said, so I paid very close attention to the comic book industry as this all started in 2017, 2018. And nowadays, these days, I don't have the time that I used to. But coming back to this story and seeing how this happened, it actually just kind of filled me with a lot of sadness to see that things really haven't changed.
It's the same thing, man. It's catty. It's weird. And yeah, so you had that. Shout out Mark Miller. He is one of the few guys in comics that can call his own shot. He went to bat for him, even went to talk with Glenn O'Leary. Look, he's just echoing the same sentiments that many of us have been echoing for a very long time. And he's the one that's front line. There's a lot of delusional comic book shops owners out there that are keeping up with the charade. Glenn was one that just spoke facts. It's like, dude, it's obvious. You guys are using these characters as a vehicle, as we spoke about in the last segment, excuse me, to portray your individual views. That's all this has ever been, and people don't want that. You know, the great Chuck Dixon, when he wrote Alpha Core, I remember us sitting down and having a meeting, and he wanted to get to understand these characters. He wanted to understand who it was. It wasn't, I'm Chuck Dixon. I need to write myself into Brian Solera. That's not how it is that he operates. He's like, he's a professional. So he's like, who are these characters? And I will write a believable story in which the characters are true to the vision it is that I had as the creator of them. That conversation doesn't seem like it's being had with any editor, and as well as a creator that's writing any of these stories. But that's the culture of comic books right now, that these people get so aggravated, they get so angry at someone just talking about their own experience. He's not necessarily, it's not, yeah, some of it's political, other times it's not, it's more social, whatever it is that you want to say it. But the point is that what he's saying is true. And instead of accepting the truth, these people will rather go around trying to demonize someone for daring to speak what is a factual statement, right? That's all this is. And you can see what's going on with Mark Miller right now, who they really got mad at him when he said good things about Isom. They got really mad about Mark Miller. But that's what I'm talking about. It's like anything that is opposite of what the mainstream is doing and not kissing the ass of it, you're going to be seen as an enemy. And I've told folks this may be a little daunting for some folks, but you need to be prepared for that. These folks will try to ruin your life in the event that you stand up and be opposite of them. They're going to treat you like you're the absolute enemy. You could be the nicest person in the world. Nobody's had anything negative to say about Mark Miller for this long. And now all of a sudden, now that he's a little more public with and being honest about the industry, well, he's a white supremacist, he's this, he's all that, and it's all these negative things. That's how they treat people that go against the grain.
And they make it impossible for people to stand up because they make it too much of a burden on you. Like, do you think he knew when he showed support for Isom, did he understand what was about to happen?
No, he had no idea.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane that you have to worry about that at all.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because then I got to have a conversation like, hey man, look man, I appreciate you saying those good things about it, you know, but this is unfortunately what we're dealing with. And to Mark's credit, he could take it on the chin. He's one of the few guys that can call his shots. I actually got offended on his behalf when people were like, oh well, you paid Mark Miller to say those good things about Isom, and I'm like, might be the only guy that's richer than I am outside of maybe Todd McFarlane that's doing comics.
I think they said his Netflix deal was 30 to 50 million.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he can call it like, I'm a millionaire, but not like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's dealing with another set of circumstances over there. I'm not anything near that, but that's how they treat folks that go against the grain. So he's dealing with that. Glenn's dealing with that right now. The same thing I'm dealing with, and the same that many other people that are in the independent space that have walked away from the industry, like the Graham Nolans of the world or Mike Barron, as we mentioned before. Anybody that is doing their own thing and is acknowledging and being honest about what the comic book industry and the state that it is in right now is going to be seen as an enemy, and they're nasty, man. These are ugly people.
It's insane to imagine that something like that could cost you your livelihood. Or, I mean, who was the creator? Was it Jay Lee who was he was on vacation and they started attacking him?
Tom King, yeah, because he did a.
It wasn't even one of these people. It was a fellow industry professional.
Yeah, it was. He did a cover for Ethan Van Sciver, and that was, I mean, an absolute no for the industry for him. So you had guys like that asshole Tom King, that's his name, was going after him. You're aligning yourself with CG, this, that, and they got all pissy mad at him. And I shout out to Jay Lee, because he came out and it was like, this shit ain't funny. Like, y'all are going around basically trying to ruin people's lives. This stuff is not funny, man. They're painting you, and the ugly things it is that they're going to say that you're associated with, just because you worked with someone, you took a commission from someone. Like, what? That's how stupid this is. The guy just took a gig and they jumped down his throat because of it.
They also, remember what I said earlier, they go too far. Who was it we were just talking about? It was like Martin Freeman. They're like, Martin Freeman is a wife beater. But then they list one thing and then they list like 10
there was
more
this
things, like
video of Martin Freeman that people got mad at because he made a joke about date raping an elf. I'm not kidding.
Oh, from the Hobbit.
And they said,
the Hobbit promotional.
a reminder that Martin Freeman is a racist, misogynistic homophobe, a rape apologist, a classic Islamophobe who hits his children, and yet he's still employed.
Okay, so like you say the one thing, and then they add like four more things on top of it.
Oh.
I'm like, I don't.
Well, then that's why
all those things.
They ended up walking away with their pigtail between their legs.
Maybe he's a racist. Maybe he's a sexist. He's probably like, you're not nine.
It's all the same thing. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is that you are. It can be on an individual issue. That's what they did with Mark. Now Mark's all of a sudden racist. He's a transphobe. He's all these other things.
I like the idea. He's like, look, I'm not a racist. I'm a sexist, but I'm not a racist. Like, he's like, I wouldn't go that far, right? Like, they make you 9 things. And
that's what this all this cancellation BS. That's what it became, right? It's that. You know, they found all these evil things, and this is why, unfortunately, none of these terms mean anything Nazi. And then if they can't call you a Nazi, they'll say you're a sympathizer or you're adjacent, which is a chicken shit, chicken shit way to say, I can't really call you that, but I want to say that you're aligned with it in some sort of way. And they're just on autopilot. This is why I know people understand I'm a little rough around the edges, and I don't have any problem, calling these people for what it is that they are. But I think that's a necessary response, because you need to understand what the intention is of these pieces of shit. What they're trying to do is ruin people's lives. Like, that's not funny. Like, to me, that isn't even all of a what? Because I had a different opinion on a comic book character or something like that. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like that's the. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we arguing about here?
This is a symptom of the subject matter becoming self-inserts, because back in the day, people would go to comic shops and they would argue over comics all the time.
Well, that was what we did. It was all of those stupid shit was what comic book fandom was about.
You're supposed to argue about whether, you guys were talking about Slade Wilson, about Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
And funny because they were created, I think Deadpool was first and then Slade. But the point is, there's a famous video that somebody made. It was like an animation about who would win in a fight, Deadpool or Deathstroke, and that's what it should be. It should be that type of arguing, not arguing about whether this character that you like or don't like is a sign as to whether you believe in white supremacy or not, which is inherently ridiculous and stupid. If you can't say it out loud without laughing, it's probably not a real argument. No,
it's retardation. Let's call it what it is. But that's what the comic book industry used to be about. So this is what gets me when someone dares to have like an opposing opinion about a storyline or whatever's happening. The first thing that these people do is go label them as these evil things. things, and I'm like, dude, we used to argue about dumb shit in comics. Who's more powerful than this versus this versus that? That's what that's what it used to be about. However, what didn't happen is that we'd say that, hey, you'd say this character was better, or that this character was negative in your eyes, or whatever it may be. We didn't ultimately say, well, you're racist.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't the conclusion that it was. It was just, no, we're going to sit and argue for the next 45 minutes about why this character is better, why Batman will want to fight against Captain America, or whatever it is. Not, oh, well, you must be a racist because you don't like Miles Morales. Like, what type of dumb shit it is that we're arguing about, but that's what it's become. I just don't like the fact that it's been weaponized so much. That's what frustrates me so much, is that these people know exactly what it is that they are doing when they try to associate you with white supremacy or homophobia or whatever buzz term it is. The intention is, and let's be very, very clear, and I want them to stand by it, is to ruin your life. Like, that's their intention.
Because the headlines that come out now, whenever somebody looks up your name, it's going to be right next to those words.
Yes.
Right? There's going to be tweets talking about you that have those words in it, and they won't tag you in it because they end up Xing out parts of your name. They Voldemort you, which they do with a lot of these people. And the fact that nothing has changed, or at least, I guess you could say something has changed, right? Because this backfired badly on them right now. So what we're seeing right now is a little bit of that backfiring, because they went to do the thing that they normally do when somebody says something they disagree with, and the public response was very much the opposite of that, and that's encouraging.
Well, because these people deserve to be shamed.
Yes.
Agreed.
And like now they're using AI art.
Oh yes, let's
shame them.
We can look at some of these images
CANCELPIGS.
here. We've got a bunch of pictures of CANCELPIGS here. This one here,
The keyboard warrior pig.
Yes, I like keyboard warrior pig. I like the coat on keyboard warrior pig. It's good. It's good.
They get worse though.
They do. Yes. Okay. Let's look at this one next. Oh my goodness.
That's about how they look. Same color hair.
Yep. There,
Glasses.
It's
Same.
an affront to my glasses,
That's
ladies and gentlemen.
That's a pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
This Pixar meme. I would see it.
What does what does the SW stand for down there? I need to know.
Well, you said you think that this is based on somebody. Like in real life.
Like Renfamous, right? Like,
that's about how she looks. She's going after me too.
This one?
Yellow Flash
posted
is
this
selling merch with this one on it.
Shout out to Yellow Flash.
There you go. And this one? I like it.
No.
I like it.
It's accurate.
It's very AI, because there's like the text doesn't mean anything in the background, which I like.
But it's also like none of what they tweet means anything.
Yeah.
So
They said it means
makes
Star
sense.
Wars. Somebody said the SW means Star Wars. It could have. I'm not sure. But let's do one
The
more.
pink-haired one is my favorite.
This one is great. It's even got the high fade.
He's marching with Antifa.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
Mary, let's do some super chats. Let's catch up.
We
on some
do
super
have a
chats
lot.
here.
Carnell said, "Hail Brett and Mary. Today I'm grinning ear to ear because I've been waiting for this guest to be on for a while, so I can ask this question." Eric, what is your favorite part of iSong?
I love it. That's
Do you have a favorite part?
Do I? I mean, the introduction of Alpha Core was pretty massive for us. The introduction of Yaira as well.
And that's coming. Is that coming as its own?
Yaira's going to be its own series
Jessica?
after Alpha Core.
Yeah.
Yes, that's going to be another one. But no, for people that don't understand that was a meme. A lot of our haters were trying to, conjure up this narrative that nobody actually read the book and nobody talked about it. So they'd asked repeatedly, hey, what's your favorite part? So then we took it back. You can actually go get the shirt right now. It's live in the Alpha Core campaign. You can get your what's your favorite part t-shirt there. It's part of the campaign. So go to the Alpha Core campaign and go check that out. But we appreciate the meme. That is now ours.
Shane H. Wilder said the Tim and Carter cover of Together Again is the best cover since Elysium's synth metal cover of Safety Dance. Happy Friday, Brett, Mary, and Eric.
Happy Friday.
Shout out.
Unknown said, hail the Rippaverse. Let's go.
Appreciate you.
Let's go.
Shane H. Wilder said, Mary listening to Together Again on her 8-track.
Yeah, I mean, that would be even better than a cassette tape, right? That'd be good. Let's do one more and then we'll move
I
on.
don't even know what currency this one is, but it's from... I don't want to say this username.
You don't want to say the
username?
Gollum's half-botched circumcision leftover?
Anyway, He said, "My men, 199, hail."
Hell.
Oh, shout out 199. Shout out.
All right, let's hold off on the rest, and we'll come back after the fact. Let's talk about Jonathan Majors real quick, because I actually think I was thinking about something about talking about this with you. I think this would be really interesting. So, if you guys haven't been following, Jonathan Majors has been on trial for over a week now. They finished closing arguments the other day, and essentially there's this video that comes out now where he's basically running away from his girlfriend.
Good. It's comedy gold.
It is.
Literally, he's like running like Forrest Gump in this video. So it's surveillance footage from the infamous car scuffle where he's trying to force her back into the car, and then she chases after him multiple blocks down the streets.
Let's watch it. Here, we got it right here. Oh, please.
A lot of people think this vindicates him as well.
Does it? I don't know if it necessarily vindicates
Some
him.
people are interpreting it
But if
that
people
way.
don't know, Jonathan Majors is Kang in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was in Creed 3 with Michael B. Jordan. He's a very prolific actor right now. So if you're
he's
if you're
about
on the
to
listen,
exit the car, and he's picking her up and forcing her back in the car to stop following him.
he's like, please stop this.
It looked like her head got bumped on the roof of the car, where her ear got cut.
The door got left open, so that driver now.
Yeah,
has
the
to go over
driver is
there
now
and do
effed.
this.
So she's literally starts running after him in stiletto heels in a high-speed chase. So you see her ear is like, that's probably where she got the cut on her ear.
What's crazy about this is Marvel now has to basically wait for this trial to finish, right? While they figure out what to do. I don't think they end up firing him. I think they end up keeping him. But here it is. Here's where he basically says, "Let me go." And he's like,
she scrambles after him in her heels.
Leaving. And
So was the idea that he was, because I saw someone make a skit off of this, was the idea that he was like saying, "Hey, you're being belligerent.
Yeah.
Stay in the car. I'm going to go walk."
Yeah.
Like, was that the idea?
So basically, what happened was we'll just keep talking while he's. So what happened was she's sprinting. Like my favorite is also it's the high water.
She
pants
runs
as he
into
does it.
traffic. Like this is stopping traffic.
Yes.
He's out. Too.
And he's around the corner.
Yeah, he's out.
He's
out.
a
Once he
bigger
turned that
guy,
corner, he's out.
Large
Longer stride. Yeah.
But then she finds a group of people that are around the corner when she falls behind, and she tries to get them to help her find where he went.
I just love the high pants
Yeah,
that are like above the. He's like, look,
out.
I'm in the best shape of my life right now.
She's trying to walk and act nonchalant like nothing happened.
He was out.
But
She's fixing her hair.
Here, so what happened is basically she read a text on his phone. He must have
From Cleopatra.
From a woman named I assume a woman named Cleopatra. He had something on the side. She didn't like that.
It must have been Megan.
Maybe it was Megan Good. I just
gotta
about
be
to
Megan
say
Good.
it was Megan Good.
It's funny because I love Megan Good as an actress. I do.
Okay, so
like,
look, she's like here. She's talking to this group of people, trying to tell them. Probably trying to tell them
he's
like,
running. He's got these high water pants on. Have you seen him?
are you guys into Marvel movies? Do you know who this guy is?
And then
he comes back.
And he's like, leave me alone.
And then
Leave me alone.
she chases him again.
So
It keeps going.
That's crazy.
So what do you?
man.
So here's my question. You're a business owner now. You're doing your own thing. What do you do if you've got somebody works for you ends up in a situation
You're
like
in a
this?
tough situation. Like seriously, Marvel is in a very tough situation because if you let him go and he gets vindicated, right?
You're the bad guy.
You're gonna automatically be the bad guy, and considering where you can't afford to make any bad moves, considering the direction it is that you're going with. But if there's gonna be some case of abuse or whatever, and it's gonna be some confirmation there, whatever it is, they're basically forced to sit up here and let this thing play out. They have to let it play out.
And it's not like this is a guy who's on his first solo movie and then you can write him out. He's supposed to be
your
the
next big villain.
long-standing next big villain. He is your next Thanos. So there's nothing you can really do because you've already bet so much of the bank on this guy.
Well, once people saw this video, I immediately saw the public sentiment turn in the opposite direction.
I saw that as well, and that's why I was like, was that the case, or was it he was trying to put her in the car and
Did
bounce?
you see the text messages that came out? Like, okay, so the judge allowed these text messages from September 2022 to be read in court, and it's implying that there was another domestic violence dispute that happened between them that didn't go to the cops at the time. And he texted her like, you don't understand the ramifications if you go to the hospital. Even if you lie, they're going to suspect something. And it was it basically implies that he did injure her head in that incident.
And you have to sacrifice
and
for me because
the judge deemed this necessary for the jury to know.
Yeah.
So it has to factor into their decision, even though it's not what they're deliberating on right
but
now.
that's the problem, right? Like, I don't think he's actually, like, if what we're talking about here is that he hurt her in this instance, what they're saying is that she reached for his phone and she got hurt while he was trying to get his personal property back. I don't know if the guy goes to jail for something. He's certainly not going to jail.
I don't think he's going to jail
But
regardless.
I don't think the dude ends up getting in trouble for it.
Yeah.
I wanted to play the audio of him ranting to her, telling her to act like a Michelle Obama or
I did hear
Coretta
about
Scott
that.
King.
Yeah, that
Here we
was-
go. Let's listen to this.
Like, I know it's dark, but I still find it funny.
Period. This is actually, period. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Do you really though, baby? Do you really?
Yes.
Then how dare you come home drunk and disturb the peace of our house when we have a plan? I would like to get to the point where your friends know what job I'm on and go, I think Grace is gonna be out of commission. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I won't.
No, do you understand that? Because that team, that unit, right? Grace has to be in a certain mindset to support Coretta Scott King. You know who that is? That's Martin Luther King's wife. Michelle Obama.
Do you know who that is?
Obama's wife.
I know. I'm not. I shouldn't have gone out. I'm
No,
sorry.
let me just lay it out for you.
I'm sorry.
Right? If I'm just gonna say this. My temper, my shit, my trauma, blah, all that said, right? And I'm not saying I'm a great man. A great man. I am doing great things, not just for me, but for my culture and for the world. That is actually the position I'm in.
It's the
That's
MCU,
real.
dude.
I'm not gonna think about it.
not.
I didn't ask for it. I've worked, and that's the situation. The woman that supports me, that I support, that needs to be a great woman and make sacrifices the way that man is making for her and for them ultimately. Last night, 2 nights ago, you did not do that. You
sorry.
did not do that.
I'm sorry.
Which took away from the plan.
The
and
plan.
The plan is everything. If it was just you in the house drunk, maybe I could have swallowed it. or I would have felt bold enough like, oh, babe, let's just go to bed. Which I said to her, I'm just going to go to bed. I'm not hungry, blah, 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 blah. Because Grace isn't here. Why? She was drunk. Why else? She was clogged by whatever was going on. You know what I mean? Fine, I can take that. Fine.
So he was upset
yeah.
because she came home drunk on the same night that one of his fellow cast members on Loki was visiting the house, and it was in front of a colleague, so he was all embarrassed.
Hey, I mean, I respect it just because of like, hey, man, like at least he's aware. Most of these celebrities aren't even fucking aware, like they're of like, dude, there are ramifications here, and he's right. Like, I mean, we can make fun of the guy all day long, but he's at least right in that sense, like. You know, these people represent you, right? And then when you have become this big celebrity, everybody's looking for, you know, a reason to get at them. And I can totally empathize with that sort of point that you not only represent yourself, but you represent me. And if you know coming home in front of company, act a certain way, you know, you make me look bad. So I can understand that. I can understand it.
Like, I wonder if she knew that there was like people over.
I just
You know
think
what I
he
mean?
needs
Like,
to get some perspective. Like, you're not Obama. You're not Martin Luther King Jr.
I'll try to be fair. Well, no, he's
you're
not
a
any of
Marvel
that.
actor.
No, but I guess that's what it is that he's saying. And to be fair, he did become kind of like this. He was on a hot streak there, right? With Creed and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and him being the next big villain.
He was in a movie called Devotion.
Yeah, he was on a hot streak there, right?
He
He
had
was
the
starting
ad
to become
campaigns
this.
that all got canceled
like
and stuff like
he was becoming like this prominent like guy. So I can totally understand how that could derail. Well, the situation. I mean, it's already derailed all of that, nonetheless. But I can at least be understanding of, hey, man. With the people around you, especially if it's going to be a loved one like that, they need to be aware of like, hey man, like what you do doesn't just represent yourself, but it represents
Right.
me.
I would
Someone
like
said
to
it
know where
seems
the
like
recording came from. Like, did she record that?
It was submitted as evidence.
No, but I'm saying, I want to know who
I
actually
Well,
recorded it.
she had to be the one that recorded it because
She's like, oh, yes.
because you could hear her voice louder than what you can hear
Right.
his, so
Yeah,
it's probably
so-
on her person.
Yeah.
Someone said it seems that having standards and expecting your partner to have them too in front of your coworkers is considered abusive.
Yeah, that part I hope there's no like legitimate abuse there, but that in itself I think is a harmless. It's actually, he's self-aware, right? He's at least self-aware. Most celebrities are not self-aware. Like, hey, there's other things on the line, so you
I
can't.
doubt
You can't
this will happen, but if the verdict is guilty, I guess if you were in charge of the decision and he gets the verdict of guilty, would you keep him?
If he's guilty, well, no. Marvel's in an
Or
impossible
replace
spot. They got to replace him. They'd have to. They'd have to. They'd
Because
have to replace him.
I just don't think the average person is paying attention. I don't think they care.
Well, what's gonna happen is they're gonna say, and it doesn't matter like what they find him to be guilty actually on. The public perspective, or even the perspective among the peers, is gonna be like, "Ha, you're protecting an abuser." That's what they're gonna say.
I guess, but I just think
No, I agree with you on that. Like, yeah.
If you go up to the random consumer of this content, they probably wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup.
I don't know.
Honestly.
I think that. Well,
Nor do they pay attention to the headlines about him or know anything
don't know.
about his personal life.
I think that they're going to look at
Attention spans are so short now.
It is. I agree. I don't know.
That is a big one. Is by the time the next project comes out, the news is by the wayside, and
Yeah.
it's just not as important as it was back then.
I don't disagree
and
with
that.
that.
Depends on if he's not, even if he's guilty, he's going to get probation, or he's not going.
Fines.
He's not
going to jail over this, man. Whatever. He's not going to jail. But again, if they do find him guilty, they're getting rid of him. I believe if they're 100% Marvel saying they're figuring out an exit plan.
We got a $20 one here from Derpwing Duck. Says, "Hey Eric, Murray, and Bread." just gonna drop another 20 to ask you to read the previous $20 super
You're
chat.
correct.
Wake up and pay attention. These shenanigans cut into the bourbon budget for us nobodies this time of year.
You're
Yes,
correct.
I'm sorry.
I missed
Yes,
those. So
there was a
let's
couple.
just do that right now.
Yes.
Kyle Dixon, I believe, was the first one that we skipped. He said, excited to read my copy of Alpha Core.
Shout out.
However, the wife and I agreed to wait till Christmas to open it. So thank you in advance, Santa Rippa.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. It's a gonna be a great read for you guys. Thank you so much for the support.
Nathan said, hi, Eric. Who do I get in touch with about working on future ISOM animated projects? I've been working in the animation industry for almost 9 years and exhausted by working on one woke project after another.
Hit us up. We have our contact sheet definitely on my website as well.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. And sorry.
Yes.
It's on your website.
Yes. Hit us up. Because we are expanding with Rippaverse Studios.
Oh,
so hit us
and
up.
then Derpwing Duck said Peter Parker powerfully punched a perp robbing a pickle peddler in the park. The predatory and pasty pinko punk passed out on a picnic table, pacified. Just had to inject some nonsense. Y'all were getting amped up. I did that really well.
That was impressive.
Free one? You got a free one out of it. This happens sometimes. Okay, did we get the one from Tech up here?
Yes.
Okay, I just making sure. So when we do the Friday shows, when we don't read the 20s, we sometimes get backlogged there. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that Marvel doesn't really have a choice, that they'll have to replace him if he ends up being found guilty for that. But it's not an easy position to
Nah,
find themselves in.
I don't envy him at all, man.
I think of it like this: like as much as I laugh at it because of the comparisons, that's where it loses me, because him asking, "Do you know who that is?" Like.
Well, I think his point is, to be fair to him, is like, hey, be a nice representative for me. I think it's less about, hey, I'm Martin Luther King. I think it's more about they stuck with, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of Martin Luther King Jr. and some of the stuff he was into. But, loved one stuck by his side, and there wasn't a whole lot of controversy around them, right? So they didn't destroy their loved one, if you will. So I think that's more or less the point it is that he's trying to make. He's like, be like them. They're good, nice representations of the relationship it is that we are in. Is more the point it is that he's trying to make. But yeah, it was I guess you can say it was an odd. Yeah.
So he's
it's
like,
an odd place to go.
When your friends find out the next job I'm on, they should think Grace is going to be out of commission for a while or whatever, for months.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna be his personal assistant.
Well, she worked on Multiverse of Madness as a movement coach. I love when they get the jobs.
Don't know what that means.
That's a fake job.
Yes, it's
Probably a fake
it's
job.
like, okay, so extend your arm like this. Look, I was watching this really good documentary on the making of the final scene from Casino Royale where they sink the building, and it's just so great to look at all of how CGI was done back then before it became so sanitized now. But there's all these people. It's like scuba instructor. Just imagine like you work as like a scuba instructor on one of these sets. That's a real job.
Aquaman.
I don't know if movement instructor is necessarily a real job. That just seems like my girlfriend needs some money. Can you hire her on? Right?
Probably,
You know?
probably.
And to be fair to the dude, he did lose out. Like his agent dropped him.
Yes,
His
yes.
like CAA or whatever's dropped him right away. Now there was articles that came out almost instantly saying that people didn't like this guy and they were just looking for a reason.
Why didn't they like him?
They said that he was loud and abusive towards members of the cast and crew in the past. Now what's interesting is we've kind of talked about this when it comes to Me Too stories. So
Too.
No, actual Me Too stories. So we talked about what's happening with Diddy, and we talked about stories came out about Jamie Foxx, and says it really does feel like if they don't like you, they will absolutely use it against you. If people are generally on your side, the stories will come up less. When Jamie Foxx just made his first public appearance since everything happened, since his injury, remember he almost died, none of these articles mentioned that just a week before there were these allegations
They
of
say
him.
following health scare, not following allegations of sexual assault in
But if
Jamie
they-
Foxx headlines.
but if
because
they didn't like him-
we like Jamie Foxx, but we don't like P. Diddy.
Yes.
We're mad at him.
So it's a matter of like maybe part of it is like if you give them a reason, if you are a person who's naturally abrasive to them, then you're just giving them more of a reason to turn on you, and then you better have your house in order, otherwise you're gonna risk something like this happening.
That sucks, man. Like that is, I can't imagine being under that threat. Anyway, like you can't possibly do your best work. I know I speak about this a lot, but like under those conditions where you're sitting here, like it can go a different way tomorrow. And look, if you're a grimy person, that's everything's always gonna come to light. So your best bet is to not do shit. But also, as you start to rise in popularity, man, it's just one of those things that you got to be so painfully aware of that you make the wrong people mad.
Yep.
And they're looking for a reason, and that sucks. And look, I hate when it's. Look, hopefully it's legit stuff. I hate when some of this stuff comes out to be false. So it's just people lying to effectively end your career. That's shit's stupid, man. But man, if you're a creator or whatever it is that you are, man, you start to rise in popularity, man. You got to watch how you move. I've learned that even with the Rippaverse. Like, hey, man, you got to move a little different from what you had been before, because people are going to look for a reason to get you up out of there, and there are people that are going to work overtime to do that. So just keep your head out of bullshit.
All right, let's go super chats. Let's finish up the super chats.
The Manic Mustache said, on time for once and apropos to comics, Mr. July, do you even lift, bruh?
Well, I work out every day, so.
He said, hi, Brett. Mary, you look lovely as always. Have a great show. #CancelPigs.
And to his point, like you will also tell people to go out and get exercise,
Every
to go out
day.
like and stuff like that. Whenever I post that, and people say "shut up, boomer," I'm like sounds like something a fat person would say. You should go get some exercise every day.
You should tell them that.
Yes.
Jason Dixon said, how many dollars do I need to super chat to get justice for Mocha? I can do 50 of these $2 super chats all day, asking for a friend.
It will require. Wait, you'd have to do it all as one, and then still no. There will be no justice for Mocha the Derpy Cat. I'm sorry.
Quite Blackpilled said, congrats on all your success, Mr. July. Still would love to get your boy Zach on here, but I don't think it'll happen. Jim Jeffries did him too dirty.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be honest.
mean?
So Zach, like he was my entry into a lot. I love.
He kind of popped a lot of this stuff off.
I love the roundabout way he does his videos, which is very. He pulls in some personal story, and then he ties it all back in at the end in this absolutely amazing.
It's like
way.
a sermon.
It works in this way that my very scattershot ADHD brain does, where it's like he connects things in a very, very unique way, and I love that. And I would love to have him on here, but I just don't know if he's gonna. He's not a huge fan of live streams to begin with.
Nah, he's not.
But he's great. He's one of those creators. Right? I said earlier. I said, look,
Who is Jim Jeffries?
Is that the dude who did the interview with him? I think he did this interview that went super that people he got made fun of for it basically, where they cut up his interview and they made him look like a dick, and it wasn't fair to him. But the point is like when I started working on this show, I stopped consuming as much content as I did because I just didn't have the time. But I still always try to find time for Zach's videos, and there have been more of them recently since CANCELPIGS.
Oh yeah,
blew
he's
up.
been going out. He's been going in. Shout out, your boy Zach.
Yep.
Jason Dixon said, I demand justice for Mocha. F in chat for justice.
I saw that earlier. By the way, guys, when you do the F's in chat, it makes me think the stream has been killed somehow.
Please don't.
So don't do that. But do that. Actually, no, never mind. I'm not going to say that because if you say it, then they're going to
do it.
No, I'm going to go look at it now. It's nothing but F's in the chat.
Put F's
Figures.
in chat.
All right, do put F's in the chat. I want you guys to do it.
Never said Godzilla -1 cost 15 million, made 43 million worldwide, not including Japan numbers. Godzilla nuked the box office.
Yeah, and apparently that movie cost less than 50.
That's crazy.
Way less than 15 million, which is damn impressive.
We should have reviewed that instead of stupid Wonka. Definitely. Sir Mib said no justice for the derpy cat. L in chat.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, someone's on your side.
Yes, at least one person supports the fact that cat just gets no love.
Bertman said, Brett, you madman, you finally got Eric July on.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It's a big day.
The Ninja Bear said, do you think we'll ever see another comic era like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and the cultural impact they had? Also, what is the best comic character and why? I love Spider-Man and the Max.
It's going to look a lot different. The way people consume media is different. The social media element has completely changed the game. So it's not going to feel the same way that it did. But I do believe there will be some sort of American cultural sort of creative renaissance with comics. But it's just going to look a lot different. And it's not going to come from who we know as the big two. I think that the creative renaissance is going to come from a lot of actual true independence.
The Ninja Bear said, do you think we'll ever see, or sorry, not that one. Shane H. Wilder said, Brett, Sarah, and I both told you Night Agent was good. You would enjoy it. It's giving Reacher. It's giving Reacher.
I don't know if that's how you meant to phrase that, but that's not the greatest phraseology right there. That's not the best, but maybe I'll go and check. I'm sorry, I can't now because now I have to go watch Reacher season 2, so I'm not going to have time to watch Night Agent right now.
ASE Presents said, thank you for having Eric on as a guest. I just wanted to say that Alpha Core was the best Rippaverse book yet, and I can't wait for Yaira to come out. Long live the Rippaverse. Young Clippa.
That's one of our trolls. Shout out. Appreciate you giving them money. Give them some more.
Thanks for the money. Hypothesis said Don Vito sends his regards. What, from... I only know that name from Viva La Bam. Don Vito, his uncle. Carnell said, how many parties for us to get Rippa to scream crisis parties? Inquiring minds want to know.
I don't know what it would take to scream. He screams for a living. That's expensive.
That's what I already do. Yeah.
That's expensive, man. But I would
Phil does it.
I would like to get a fifth crisis party. I would like to get a fifth crisis party. You guys should do that.
Koof said, thank you all for not killing yourselves.
Why? Because we went to see Wonka yesterday.
It was difficult, but we got through it.
It was not like when the movie was done. I almost committed blasphemy in front of Mary because it was like done. I'm like, oh my god, thank God it's over.
Yeah, and then I thought that I lost my phone in the theater afterwards and started freaking out and went back in. I just dropped it in my car.
Yeah, there you go.
Marcos said, when does Merry Bretmas start this year?
Apparently the Christmas party is going on right now. So
and we weren't invited.
Technically, we will be as soon as we're done here.
Shane H. Wilder said, Twitch couldn't predict it. Man, a blind dude could see this coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very easy to see it coming.
Tacty Platty said, say the line, Brett. Do it.
I'm not doing it.
You're not going to do it?
He made a meme. The meme, it's the Simpsons meme where it's like, say it. And then you're like, let's go.
Oh, that joint, yeah.
But that he needs the question mark.
Let's go. That's as best I can do right now.
Jake Ramirez said, funny how it took Twitch so long to catch that kind of content, while this is the same platform that bans the word simp. Weird.
Does it ban simp?
Twitch or YouTube?
You
We say
YouTube's
YouTube all
on
the
some
time.
crazy
We say
shit.
simp on YouTube.
YouTube's on
Like-
some crazy shit sometimes. Like sometimes things will get banned, sometimes things won't get banned. Like yesterday, there'll be times where I'm not playing a video, but like sometimes if you're on a website, it'll be playing in the background. Like if you open IMDb, trailers will be playing up top there. I'll just have the article up and it will
No sound.
and it will copyright us, even though we're not watching. Like there's no sound, so I guess it's algorithmic by video. But like we'll get caught for that. But yesterday we played the whole trailer for Miller's Girl and nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything. Didn't even have to
Lionsgate.
clip it later. So
Hope they're not watching right now. Is simp seriously banned on Twitch? You're on
I
Twitch.
believe there was something that people were talking about when that happened, and that they considered it a bannable
It's
word.
a slur.
Yeah,
Okay.
of some sort.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Graham Wilson said Eric is rad. He's actually contributing to the culture, and it's no small feat to do it at the level that he has. He's also in the Gothics documentary. Oh,
I am.
interesting.
Yes, that is very, very. I haven't got to see the entire thing. I need to actually hit her up here soon. But shout out to Gothics.
and hopefully we'll be having her soon again here as well
in the new
It'd be
year.
Great.
OrganizedBusinessServices.com said Brett and Mary, I'm back and I can't stay away. LOL. Sorry about my blow up. PCC is plus 400 subs a day and growing fast, and I'm still up for PCC with my clients list, but I have to protect myself, clients, and even you.
What?
I don't know what.
Is this the same thing as the guy who got in trouble because somebody swore during an episode that was playing in an Uber?
Well, we missed our Jersey Mike's
Yes.
ad deal opportunity because we were using bad language.
I can't be bought, okay? They can't buy me with Jersey Mike's.
I mean, they probably could buy me. I like their cookies.
If it was Taco Bell, they could definitely buy you.
Oh, yeah.
Mary would shill for Obama
We'd be living
if it was
moms.
for Taco Bell.
John Wayne from the future said, just ordered the bundle, dude. Can't wait to see this, as this is the first I've heard about it.
There you go.
Well, there we go. New fans. We
people.
welcome y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
The Ninja Bear said, Eric, do you think digital comics will eliminate hard copies? I draw comics by hand from pencils to inks to color. Paper for me holds value, but it seems outside of cons, there isn't a demand for it.
I would actually, my experience is the complete opposite. I don't think there's an actual much of a demand for digital comics. I think that
Comicsology closed this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there people are finding, and even if you've looked at some of the comparative numbers with the data that was available, digital comics do not make up much of the sales. I do believe where the money is always going to be, and I think it's because it's unique to the medium, is going to be physical comics, and that's great. It's a fantastic thing.
OrganizedBusinessServices.com said, go New Jersey fresh, Jersey Mike subs.
I'm not ever, I don't think I've ever actually had Jersey Mike's.
I don't know if I have either.
Have you ever had
What
Jersey
about
Mike's?
Quiznos?
Oh, yeah.
I've had
Quiznos?
Quiznos. I like Quiznos because the bread is like the fakest thing you've ever eaten.
It's not recognizable
It doesn't
as
even
bread.
taste like bread. It's just paper. It's kind of like, remember a couple of years ago, Subway, their bread wasn't bread.
No, it was the bread, and the tuna isn't recognizable as fish.
It identifies as fish.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
Wow.
the bread it's not even bread anymore.
I don't know if okay. Should I read critical things? Are you okay with responding to some criticism?
Whatever.
All right, okay. Course Guy said, EJ, you claim to be an ANCAP, yet there are several instances of Rippa employees DMCAing content about the Rippaverse. IP is not ANCAP.
Well, I'm going to tell you why that's a retarded stance, and I'm going to be honest with you. No, and I'm not saying it to shit on them. I need people to understand this.
The stance is...
on a serious note, it's funny, I'm simultaneously going through a thing right now. I don't know if you guys know, there was some trademark stuff that I've personally had to experience. What people need to understand is that the state and other people do not play by the rules of the ANCAP. They don't. Yeah. Right? They don't. So it doesn't matter how principled I am. Is it going to stop me from getting sued?
Because you have to play by their rules anyway.
Is it going to stop me from getting sued? No, it's not. It's never going to stop anything. So I think this idealistic approach is absolutely nonsensical. But people aren't dealing with, the amount of money it is that we're dealing with, and not having to look out for the employees that I have to look out. Trust me, my lawyers got all that stuff in control. And so if they do anything that's pertaining to the property, it's something that has to get done. And again, look at it in context. We're dealing with our own thing. Me being an almighty ANCAP principal and ANCAP is not going to stop anybody from suing me. Nobody cares about the fact that we don't care about trademark or any of that stuff. Nobody cares.
The things is when whenever you have these discussions, whether it's talks about political philosophy, that's a discussion and not the real world, because you're discussing how it could be implemented down the line. In a lot of times, you're utopian thinking about what it should be, but what the real world is vastly different. Which is actually why I have a harder time. Like, I love the political debates. Like, I've always loved doing IRL and getting a chance to be part of those, where I usually just get told to come on and I just come on and say the media is evil, which is the easiest thing to say in the world, because the media is absolutely evil.
Yeah.
They're like, well, Brett doesn't have a whole lot of strong political takes these days, but he can tell you that the media is bad, because everyone knows that. But you're talking philosophy, and you're talking about what it would be like if you were the one in charge of how things are applied.
Ideally, IP wouldn't even be a thing if it was up to me, but that's the thing. It's not up to me. Again, it's not gonna, my ideals, and nobody cares about that. When definitely, once you start making the amount of money it is that we made, what, you're gonna grill me for paying taxes too?
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
well, actually, you would love this, but I over here have several celebrity tax heroes that I keep pictures of in this office. Wesley Snipes being my personal favorite of all
Shout out
but
Wesley.
I do have much support for all of the ones, but doesn't mean I don't pay my taxes. But I can give a wink and a nod to the ones that have bravely stood up against the fascist government.
A $20 from John Wayne from the future. I just heard the song Self-Ownership, and it is now on repeat all day long. It's so fracking good, almost as good as Borax. Borax, so good.
Well, I appreciate you jamming Self-Ownership. Thank you so much.
J Turbo 25 said, have you guys seen the trailer for the new movie coming out called The American Society of Magical N-Words?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Magical Negroes. Yes, I did see that.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty sure that's against YouTube POS.
We can't say.
I don't know if
I don't know.
Okay, so when
I don't know.
Well, I feel like I get a pass either way.
Actually no. So when Larry Elder was on IRL, he straight up used the word, the full word, and nothing happened. As far as
it's
I know,
academic enough that it didn't get
well, yeah, because he was sharing a story from his childhood. So if we get cut later, I demand.
Rippaverse is gonna pay out.
Yeah, no. What I want is I want it to snowball and just get us better publicity if this episode gets taken down.
Sorenko Productions said, when the love and respect everyone left, trademark, starts the ad hominem attacks, you know you've won the argument.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they were doing with Glenn O'Leary.
They started calling him fat and all.
Yeah, they didn't have an actual argument against him. They just said you're like, because what it is, and what I watched, I don't remember who had the video. He said there's not tweets from 10 years ago from this guy, so they can't go back through his timeline and find a bunch of stuff to hate on him for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Organized Business Services said, I love this guy. Can we have Eric every Friday?
He's a busy man.
Hey man,
He's
if
got
I can
stuff
make
to
it,
do,
if I was around, I'd be down.
Bang Bang Lulu said, insert Benny Hill theme.
Well, he's running.
Oh, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorenko Productions said, Loki Season 2 actually made a very convenient way to drop Kang if they need to.
It's one of the things that's crazy. Like, you run a real risk when you create these long-term storylines that involve a character. Especially think with Marvel. Marvel did it with post-credit scenes before, but not with an actor. Like, at that point, you had Josh Brolin's voice, but you weren't actually putting a person there. They could have replaced Brolin's voice if they absolutely had to. You could find a talented enough voice actor to have been able to cover it, but you run that risk that if that person gets in danger. But they took a risk before. Hiring Robert Downey, I don't know if you guys understand how much of a risk it was to hire Robert Downey Jr. in 2008. He was on all
kinds of shit.
He was always in trouble, right?
Yeah. In 2008, what could you get in trouble for back then?
He was in jail.
Yeah.
He was a drug addict.
Drugs.
He was
out of control. He was on that saved his career.
Yeah.
Iron Man saved his career.
Was he on an Ezra Miller era?
No, not.
I mean, he wasn't punching up on and throwing chairs at Health. Not that I'm aware of. But he was on some shit.
His image was not good at that time. He had to completely rebuild his image from scratch, and Marvel allowed him to do that, which is why now he makes so much money that he can demand that they rebuild his apartment in a new city because he's worth that much money.
Derpwing Duck said, did they catch the persons who were screwing with the graves of Eric's family? I get it. You can't hurt the dead, but still.
That was
yeah. So
what is this?
So an update to that. Well, long story short, some guys went to my dead ancestors' graves and started to screw with it. Well, the good news is they actually did end up catching one of them that was involved with it, but it's under even more protection than what it is, that cemetery, and all is good. All is good.
That story was insane.
Yeah, some crazy people out there.
Bucky Ducky said, Eric, Mary, would you rank the 6 Star Wars films?
Oh, I can't do that. There's no
You
way I
don't?
can. No, I couldn't do that. I'm too much. I could, but I'm not. Let's just say that.
There you go.
But I'm far more of a normie with Star Wars than I am with Marvel. I know a lot about it, but I'm not a Star Wars guy per se. Yeah.
I guess I would put 3, 2, 4, 5, and 6 are somewhere in there, and then 1 is at the bottom.
There you go.
Carnell said, Eric, what's your favorite wrestling tag team, and do you have a favorite championship belt?
A
fellow wrestling fan.
When I really love the belt that Austin had.
Yes, Big Eagle.
For sure. But as far as tag team, it would have to be more so because I was a big Road Dogg fan. I would say Road Dogg and Billy Gunn during that era. I liked Matt and Jeff as well, but for sure, I was a big Road Dogg guy. So New Age Outlaws.
That's a very charismatic dude.
Yeah.
The definition of charisma. Do you mean like the belt that Austin had special made, the Smoking Skull belt?
No.
The WWE
the
WWF version.
Yeah, the WWF
Eagle.
belt was fucking sick.
The other day, I was literally somebody said like if you had a Christmas wish, what would it be? I said, see, one of the things that I will never do, I will never spend the money on a replica belt, even though at least once a month I go look and I'm like, can't justify it. I'm not going to spend the money. But that belt, that debuted the day after WrestleMania 14, after he beat Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
And that one had the old box logo, and it was a blue strap. But then in January of that year, after WrestleMania, then it got the scratch logo and a black strap. And I would love to own that one. So good.
So sick. Yeah.
Pat the Plumber, I apologize for missing your $20 super chat. He said, I just had my Christmas party, got my bonus. Let's go.
Let's go.
Shut up.
Sharing is caring. Thank you. Shane H. Wilder said, I was praying a decade for you guys last night because y'all had to watch Wonka. Thank you for that.
I made the argument. I said, look, one of the things that I'm willing to admit is if I'm in a bad mood before I go watch a movie, it can absolutely have an effect on how I see it. I don't think anyone's actually immune to that. I think it actually probably happens more than people realize. If you one of the reasons when I would watch TV shows or something is I can watch it on at my convenience. I have whatever I need when I do it. But when we go watch movies, it's we get done with work and then we have to immediately go scramble, go to the theater. When I was watching this, I was in a bad mood yesterday. But I am willing to point out that even though I don't really think that it's all that great of a film, I think it's kind of soulless. The amount of CGI is just mind-boggling for a movie like this. I do think that if you have kids that don't know much about Wonka, they might be able to find it charming in and of itself because they don't have the baggage of knowing about the Gene Wilder version or even the Johnny Depp version.
Okay.
There is some wholesomeness there if you want to bring your kids to it. But as an adult, if you're going to look as some type of worthwhile prequel to Gene Wilder's movie, it's not that. You don't want that.
Viperus69 said, funniest cancel pig moment for me is the hack who can't sell a comic book, Wade calling Miller a falling star.
Oh, Mark Wade, yeah, that guy's an interesting cat, man.
Very talented, but very much,
He's part of the problem, for sure.
Not that John Stewart said the other day I had to edit out commie to communist. Thanks, YouTube super chats, #no justice for derpy cats.
Wait, but it let him, the guy who asked if you'd seen the movie trailer with the word at the end, he typed that out in the super chat.
It was allowed.
He was allowed to type that, but he wasn't allowed to, but somebody else wasn't allowed to say commie.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's up with that?
Pat the Plumber said Jersey Mike's is fire. I'll take your word for it. Shane H. Wilder said, Jersey Mike's is all right. Go live, Moss. Taco Bell's still at the top. Not that John Stewart said hostage party. Let's go.
We're in the midst of a hostage party of sorts right now.
The Ninja Bear said, sorry, Eric, I meant digital creation versus Lightbox and inks on Bristol. Quick note, Mary probably doesn't read comics, but do you guys think she is legit the original Gwen Stacy?
You could be the original Gwen Stacy.
I can see that.
You have an Emma Stone vibe about you.
I can see that. But no, I get. I don't know how the hell that's gonna work. You can't really sell the original for a digital like ink up or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how the market is with something like that. But that's, yeah, I don't know who's gonna buy like your digital version of that, unless it's like again attached to the comic, and even then you might as well make it in print because you'll make more money off of it.
John Wayne from the future said, hey, don't forget about the movie Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. RDJ was so good in that, but I can't remember if that was before or after Iron Man.
I don't know. That might have been before Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr., to me, he hasn't had the success post-MCU. I loved him in Oppenheimer. I think he was actually one of the best parts of Oppenheimer because of the important role he plays in it. But he did that horrible Doolittle movie that nobody wanted to go see. Like, he's, I mean, there could be an argument to be made there that a lot of those actors, they can't, just like the writers can't survive without the comics. A lot of the actors.
Well, you saw what happened to the Buzz Lightyear shit. They tried to get Chris Evans. Yeah.
And he did that spy. He did Gray Man, which I kind of liked his Ace Ventura-esque portrayal in that movie, but he's not an actor that I go seek out. Though I will say, Not Another Teen Movie is a masterpiece, and that is his film debut. You should go watch that.
Alex James said, I failed to get Eric to watch Star Wars on tour.
Oh, I forgot
You've never
all about
watched
that.
it?
No, I've watched plenty. I've watched plenty of Star Wars, but I do remember that. But yeah, he didn't do a good job of that. Shout out to Alex, who's our other vocalist in Backwards. Shout out.
Go.
Bucky Ducky said, Mary, please explain why 1 is the worst. I've said this before, but I just didn't care for Kid Anakin. I hate Jar Jar Binks. Everyone agrees on that, and it just felt like it was a kid's movie.
That was one of the first ones that, I mean, I was old enough to see in theater. I remember vividly going to see that damn movie in theaters when I was a kid.
It's really funny too. If you look at a lot of television post the prequels, it became a punchline in movies and television to like make fun of the prequels, right?
If only they knew how good they had it.
No, literally, like how much better things were back then.
I also didn't care for the, like, I don't know, political drama of it. I don't know. Organized Business Services said, it was not about the bad words, Brett. It was nothing else. I'll be contacting you on Twitter for all the details when you hit 100K. Watch for my IM.
Okay, will do.
Your IM. People say that still.
I do, yeah. We need to bring it back, AOL Instant Messenger. I remember reading the article the day they said they took AOL Instant Messenger off the internet. Like, to this day, just a whole part of history went. Somebody else pointed out that, yes, Robert Downey Jr. was really good at Sherlock Holmes. Also, one of the rare examples of like an American doing a British accent rather than a British person doing an American accent, which is what it's usually like. All right, guys, before we go, unless anybody wants to continue the hostage party, before we go, I want to say, would you hit the like button on this video? Would you subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here already? Eric, thank you so much.
Oh, no, this was fucking fun,
just
man. I've had a blast.
What's up?
Bug on your headphones.
Headphones? Got it?
You can take them off. It's fine.
Yeah, let everyone know, my friend, where they can find you.
You're good. You're good.
They can find me on Rippaverse.com. That's where they should go. But EricDJuly.com. They can also check me out there. But Rippaverse is where we want you to go. We have an active campaign right now. Alpha Core #1. You can go, again, visit Rippaverse.com and get in on that campaign. We're closing in on 1.2 million. For that campaign. First non-ISOM product, wrote by the great Chuck Dixon. Again, police procedure, you're gonna love it. That's a great place to get started, and if you want to get ISOM 1 and 2, you can get those as well. But no, I had an absolute fucking blast today, man. This was fun.
This was super great. Oh, we got a couple more there. This is so good.
Shane H. Wilder, Jar Jar is the worst. Everyone agrees.
He says do it in the Trump voice. Do it in the Trump voice. Couple more there. You got those?
What the hell bug is that?
They're called stink bugs. They're harmless. They're just stupid.
It's West Virginia.
It's West Virginia, yeah.
Bucky Ducky.
They used to be worse up here, actually.
Yeah.
Bucky Ducky said, how could you hate? Are you an angel? Are you an angel?
Somebody says we missed a 20 from Derpwing Duck. I'm going to, if you want to keep talking.
Think so. Delta 999 report card said ISOM versus Ian with a graphene power suit. Who wins?
I'm always gonna pick ISOM. So.
John Wayne from the future said the Bye 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 cover from Backwards is also so borax, very very borax.
Thank you.
To mean good, I guess.
Thank you.
Bucky Ducky said, how dare you, Shane Jar Jar is the best. No, he's not. I think
Look,
you're joking.
we read the Derp Wings. The one was the Peter Parker one. We read the one about where he called Eric Murray and Bread. We read that one.
I think we got him.
There was a $5 one with from him that I might have. No, we read that one. I'm going through them all. We're doing our best here. I don't see any that we missed, so I'm gonna go.
I
ahead
did
and
that
say,
whole tongue twister super chat
Yes.
for nothing then.
Yep. And then we got one more here from Gordon Shum. A couple more here. You got those?
No, I can't.
Okay, so
they're
we got
not
one
pulled
here from
up for
Shane
me.
H. Wilder. Says, "You are wrong, Bucky. Sorry, buddy."
About
I don't know. I guess about Jar
Jar
Jar.
Jar Binks. Yeah, obviously.
One from Gordon Shumway says RDJ played a good sleaze goofball in the 80s before he started down his dark drug path. He was great in Back to School. Well, maybe that was like, so then is it like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was he a sleaze in the movies and that's why he was so good at the roles because he was also doing that stuff? High Voltage 75 says, "Hey Eric, there's a spider in your beard." I don't think he believes you.
No.
And one more from Bucky Ducky says, "Hey, Eric, can you scream beans for me?"
Nah, you got to pay for that.
More than $2.
Yes.
More than $2
Yeah,
for
sorry,
me to-
sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
And one more here from John Wayne from the future says, I'm just pitching in for the hostage party. Here's my confirmation of my pitching in." Well, thank you so much, sir. All right. Well, we are very close to a 6 crisis party. I don't know if anybody wants to make that happen. But until then, Mary, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
Perfect.
Do we have more?
We have one more here from Bucky Ducky. Can you read that one in the Trump voice?
Shane is wrong. He's always been wrong. Trust me, I would know.
He's very wrong. Yes. All right, guys. I'm gonna assume that we're gonna get that 6 crisis party before we go, and then I will just do it in the post-credit scene. But if we do, just stay tuned for that if it happens. But until then, guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. PCC is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would like to listen rather than watch. And if you'd like to follow the show on social media, we're on Twix at popculture_show. Disco Jensen right there, $20 super chat, says hostages. So now we're technically his hostages. So at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at popculturecrisis, Instagram at popculturecrisispod. Be sure to stay tuned. There will be a post-credit crisis party, guys. We will be back with another episode on Monday. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Later. There it is. It was very close. Barely a post-credit scene, guys. See you on Monday, Dave.